Chapter 33. The Jinqian clan continued to move forward and soon arrived at the residence that the Tang royal family arranged for the Jinqian clan. This was a well-decorated inn that belonged to the Tang royal family. It was very spacious and could accommodate 17 people of the Jinqian clan. Find a room to rest. Tomorrow morning, prepare to enter the ancient ginseng forest to find your own opportunities, Elder Yu said to the crowd. In addition, the information about the mental cultivation methods and martial arts techniques of the Thousand Thread clan are all on these bamboo slips. You can read them on your own. I won't remind you. Soon, everyone got a bamboo slip, which recorded some special information about the Thousand Thread clan. In addition, the martial arts techniques and mental cultivation methods of the Ice sect were also recorded on the bamboo slips. After getting the bamboo slips, Long Yu went to the second floor of the inn and found a room to sit at the table, reading the information recorded on the bamboo slips alone. The mental cultivation method of the Thousand Thread Shadow Manipulation spell is practiced by the Thousand Thread Shadow Manipulation spell. After practicing it, one can control his own shadow to fight. Many martial arts techniques are derived from it. It is very insidious and scary, and it is impossible to defend against it. Controlling one's own shadow to fight? Long Yu frowned slightly and thought of the so-called Princess Qianxi's shadow he saw at the city gate not long ago. The people of the Thousand Thread clan could separate their bodies and shadows at will and use the shadows to attack. Also, the shadows could talk, which was very strange. On the Heavenly Mandate continent, the study of martial arts practitioners on Qianxi had already given rise to various schools. The essence of the mental cultivation methods and martial arts techniques of the Thousand Thread clan was to use Qianxi to control one's own shadow in a special way. I have never encountered this kind of fighting method before. After entering the ancient ginseng forest, I must be careful at all times and try to avoid the shadow to avoid being attacked. Long Yu thought and continued to read the information on the bamboo slips to learn more about the Thousand Thread clan. As for the martial arts techniques of the Ice sect, in the early stage, there was no difference between the martial arts techniques of the Jinqian clan. However, if the disciples of the Ice sect comprehended the mental cultivation methods, their combat effectiveness would be significantly improved. Mental cultivation method, another mental cultivation method. The heaven-suppressing incantation of the Jinqian clan contains the natural law of suppression. So, the Ice Heart Sutra of the Ice sect must contain the natural law of frost, right? Long Yu guessed in his heart that in this trip to the ancient ginseng forest, he shouldn't meet an opponent who had comprehended a state. However, that might not be the case. He still had to be mentally prepared. He carefully studied the characteristics of the martial techniques of the Thousand Thread sect and the Ice Martial School and memorized them. These were all important information. Maybe when he entered the ancient ginseng forest tomorrow, these information could save Long Yu's life. Time flew by, and a few hours passed in a flash. A knock suddenly came from outside Long Yu's door. "Junior brother Long Yu, are you in the room?" A slightly familiar voice reached Long Yu's ears. "Is that him?" When Long Yu heard this, he remembered the inner disciple who was more active along the way, Ling Han. Ling Han, an inner disciple of the Jinqian clan, was currently in the 7th stage of the martial path. It could be said that he was the strongest person in the Jinqian clan apart from Tanjian. Long Yu had a good impression of Ling Han, because even if Tanjian was hostile to Long Yu on the way, Ling Han didn't take it to heart and still spoke to Long Yu to show his friendliness. Ling Han was thinking about the unity of the Jinqian clan and hoped that everyone could encounter fortuitous encounters in the ancient ginseng forest this time. "Senior brother Ling Han, what's the matter?" Long Yu thought for a moment and asked. "It's like this, junior brother Long Yu. In a while, the Imperial Princess will be arriving at the city of ancient ginseng, and I would like to go out with you. If we can get to know the Imperial Princess, it would be a wonderful thing." Ling Han said politely outside the door. "Imperial Princess?" Long Yu felt a headache. He had just arrived at the city of ancient ginseng, and now there was the Imperial Princess. How could there be so many princesses in the world? Of course, Long Yu understood that the princess of the imperial family that Ling Han was talking about now was a genuine princess, and that Princess Qianxi was completely a private title. The imperial family of the Great Tang Empire, the creator of the ancient ginseng forest, and the ruler of the 7 major sects of the Great Tang Empire. A glint of light flashed in Long Yu's eyes. Previously, he vaguely heard that his true identity seemed to be an abandoned son of a big family in the imperial city, so he would go to the imperial city sooner or later. Now that the imperial princess was coming, it was not a bad idea to go and have a look. Since senior brother has invited me, how can Long Yu not go? Long Yu replied as he stood up. He was not interested in the imperial princess, but he wanted to see how elegant the imperial family of the Great Tang Empire was. Aha, since junior brother Long Yu has agreed to come with us, then we have 6 people. Let's go. Ling Han laughed. Long Yu opened the door and saw a tall young man in a white robe. He had a handsome face and an elegant temperament, which made people have a good impression on him. This tall young man was Ling Han. Junior brother, they are waiting downstairs. Let's go. Ling Han said with a smile and turned to go downstairs. Following behind him, Long Yu saw that there were 4 other people waiting downstairs at the entrance of the inn, but Long Yu was not familiar with them. When the 4 saw Long Yu, they all looked a little dissatisfied, but for the sake of Ling Han, they did not say anything. The 6 people walked together on the cold night streets of the city of ancient ginseng. Usually, very few people came to the imperial ginseng forest, so the entire city of ancient ginseng was quite deserted. The entire ancient ginseng forest was actually a back garden built by the imperial family. Therefore, the imperial family would invite some sects and families to come and pick ancient ginseng once a year as a way to cultivate the future experts of the Great Tang Empire. Hey, it's the Ice Sect. On the way, someone with sharp eyes suddenly saw 4 Ice Sect disciples walking on the street not far away. Long Yu looked at them and was immediately stunned. Among the 4 Ice Sect disciples, one of them was a woman wearing a light green dress. Her long hair was draped over her shoulders, and a bronze-colored longsword was sheathed at her waist. Feng Yao. With just a glance, Long Yu could tell that the lady was Feng Yao, and the longsword on her waist was Feng Chang's high-rank combat weapon, the bronze ancient sword. Next to Feng Yao was a handsome young man in a brocade robe. He was quite close to her, so it was obvious that they had a good relationship. Immediately after, the 4 Ice Sect disciples also discovered Long Yu's group of 6. Look, it's the Jintian clan. Then the one walking at the front should be Ling Han, right? He looks good, but I wonder how strong he is. 2 of the Ice Sect disciples immediately began to discuss. At this time, Feng Yao turned her head and finally saw Long Yu in the crowd. This discovery made Feng Yao slightly frown. It's him? How is that possible? The handsome young man beside her saw Feng Yao's expression and asked in confusion, Yao, who did you see? It's the trash I told you about. But why is he here? Feng Yao said casually, frowning. That trash? The handsome young man beside her was surprised. Then, he followed Feng Yao's gaze and finally saw Long Yu. At this time, Long Yu was following behind Ling Han with an indifferent expression. Running into Feng Yao was within Long Yu's expectation, but it had nothing to do with him. Tonight, he came out to admire the royal family. As for Feng Yao, he would have time to play with her after entering the ancient ginseng forest. However, just because Long Yu didn't want to pay attention to them didn't mean they would ignore him. The handsome young man next to Feng Yao sneered and actually strode towards Long Yu's direction. Seeing that the young man moved, the other 3 Ice Sect disciples, including Feng Yao, naturally wouldn't stand by and watch. They all followed. Looking at the aggressive appearance of the young man in the lead, Ling Han laughed heartily, stepped forward, and actually blocked the young man's path. Brother from the Ice Sect, if you have something to say, talk nicely. Don't act recklessly. The handsome young man from the Ice Sect revealed a look of disdain when he heard this. He pointed at Long Yu and said, Let that trash come out. I have something to tell him. This scene made the 4 people beside Long Yu all take a step back, indicating that they didn't want to get involved in this matter. Only Ling Han stood in front of Long Yu and didn't move an inch. Brother, This is the city of ancient ginseng. Don't go too far, Ling Han said, still smiling. However, there was a sliver of threat in his tone, although the other party was very aggressive. How could he, Ling Han, be a pushover that could be easily bullied? Forget it, senior brother Ling Han, let me do it. Seeing this, Long Yu felt a warmth in his heart. At a time like this, Ling Han actually stepped out to help him. This was something that he had not expected at all. However, how could he drag Ling Han into this matter? The one who had a grudge against Feng Yao was him, Long Yu, not Ling Han. Moreover, Long Yu didn't think that he couldn't handle this matter. Junior brother, Ling Han turned around and glanced at Long Yu. He could easily see the confidence in his eyes and smiled. Fine, I'll let you do it yourself. Ling Han recalled that when Long Yu was in the Jinqian clan, even Feng Yun's palm hit him, and he was seriously injured. This junior brother of his was strong and had his own secrets. If Ling Han got involved, it wouldn't look good. Trash, you have the nerve to step out. I thought you only knew how to hide behind others. The young man smiled disdainfully when he saw Long Yu step out. Long Yu didn't pay any attention to him. He turned his head and looked at Feng Yao, asking with a casual smile, "Little Yao, long time no see. Why do you have a dog that only knows how to bark?" "A dog that barks." The young man's face instantly turned ashen. The trash in front of him dared to call him a dog that barks. "He's my cousin, Lu Mingxian, from the Lu family of the Imperial City. Like me, he's an intersect disciple of the Ice Sect," Feng Yao said indifferently. Her beautiful eyes filled with disdain. She glanced at Long Yu with interest, as if she wanted to see how he would deal with this. Lu Mingxian of the Lu family of the Imperial City. Long Yu finally learned the dog's identity. He was Feng Yao's cousin, a member of her family. He didn't expect Feng Yao's mother, Lu Yu, to be from the Imperial City. But how did she get married to Feng Chang'e? Could it be that Feng Chang'e had left his footprints in the Imperial City? This was getting more and more interesting. Chapter 34. Of course, now was not the time for Long Yu to be entangled with his background. Lu Mingxian from the Imperial City's Lu family stared at him. "Trash, you will pay the price for what you just said." Of course, everyone has to be responsible for what they say, including a barking dog like you, Long Yu said with a contemptuous smile. When Lu Mingxian heard this, his handsome face twisted in anger. "Come out, do you dare to fight me?" Lu Mingxian glared at Long Yu and pointed his finger at his nose, full of disdain and provocation. "Why wouldn't I dare?" Long Yu chuckled and took a step forward, as if he didn't put Lu Mingxian in his eyes at all. Lu Mingxian was the same as Feng Yao, only at the 7th level of the martial Dao. His strength was probably not much different from Qin Ti Yang's, so Long Yu was naturally not afraid. The current Long Yu had cultivated the demon subduing tyrant body to the large success stage. Furthermore, he had obtained a battle weapon, the Blizzard War Boots. His combat strength was much stronger than when he defeated Qin Ti Yang's. However, the others did not know that Long Yu had killed Qin Ti Yang's, nor did they know that he had become stronger. When Ling Han heard Long Yu's words, he could not help but be alarmed. He hurriedly stretched out a hand to stop him. "Junior brother Long Yu, you must not be impulsive. This Lu Mingxian has reached the 7th level of the martial Dao. You're not his match." If it was just a verbal argument, Ling Han could let Long Yu do it himself. But if it was a fight, Ling Han did not think that Long Yu was Lu Mingxian's match. "Humph, Ling Han, I don't want to be your enemy. Get out of the way." Lu Mingxian smiled disdainfully. "Let this trash come out. Didn't he dare to fight me? I want to see what right this trash has to talk to me like that." Feng Yao glanced at Long Yu with a disdainful expression. She could also see that the current Long Yu was at the 6th stage of the martial Dao. Although she didn't know how he was able to step into the martial Dao, just based on his cultivation of the 6th stage of the martial Dao, it was impossible for him to be Lu Mingxian's match. As for why Long Yu's realm had risen so quickly after stepping into the martial Dao, Feng Yao guessed that her father had prepared some pills for Long Yu. Other than that, there was no other possibility. "Senior brother Ling Han, just let me handle this," Ling Han said with a smile. Long Yu said, "No, Ling Han's attitude was firm. He stood in front of Long Yu like an iron wall. The ancient ginseng forest is about to open. Even if you want to fight, you don't have to do it now. Isn't it better to fight after entering the ancient ginseng forest? It's fine if you don't fight. Lu Mingxian said proudly and disdainfully. Then let this trash kowtow to me, admit his mistake, and say loudly who is the real dog here. Sir, don't go too far. The disciples of the Jintian clan can't be bullied by just anyone. Ling Han's expression gradually turned cold. It looked like he would take the place of Long Yu if there was a disagreement. This scene made Long Yu's heart warm. Ling Han was truly protecting him, treating him as a fellow disciple of the same sect. As for the other four people, they had long hidden behind, hoping that Long Yu wouldn't implicate them. It was impossible for them to stand up for Long Yu. Kowtow and admit your mistake? Who do you think you are? Long Yu sneered, then turned his head and said to Ling Han, Senior brother Ling Han, believe me, nothing will happen. Ling Han frowned, still feeling that something was wrong. Although he knew that Long Yu's strength was not bad, the other party was an inner-sect disciple of the Ice Sect at the 7th level of the martial Dao. If they really fought, it would be difficult for Long Yu to be his opponent. One had to know that the gap between the 6th and 7th level of the martial Dao was huge. Just the release of profound Qi alone gave an absolute advantage to a 7th level martial Dao expert. Long Yu should have never seen an expert at the 7th level of the martial Dao, so he thought he could deal with him, right? Junior brother Long Yu, listen to your senior brother. Don't be impulsive. Ling Han said solemnly, determined to protect Long Yu behind him. The other four disciples of the heaven-suppressing sect, as well as Feng Yao and the two female disciples of the Ice Sect, naturally felt that Long Yu was using his connections to intimidate Lu Mingxian. Relying on Ling Han's presence, he actually dared to confront Lu Mingxian in such an arrogant manner. How shameless! He actually dragged senior brother Ling Han into his own matters. No wonder this Long Yu would offend senior brother Tanjian and senior sister Feng Qianqian. So he's this kind of person. The four Jintian clan disciples whispered to each other, causing Long Yu to be somewhat puzzled. Right now, he wanted to fight with Lu Mingxian to see who was stronger, but Ling Han refused to step aside. It seemed that he had to think of a way to send him away. So, not only are you trash, you're also a coward who only knows how to hide behind others. Lu Mingxian smiled contemptuously. How can a thing like you be worthy of Yao? No wonder even Yao, said you're trash. Hearing this, Feng Yao didn't have any special expression, as if it was only natural. The others were a little surprised. What did Lu Mingxian mean when he said that Long Yu was not worthy of Feng Yao? Could it be that there was some ambiguous relationship between the two? But looking at Feng Yao's expression, she also looked down on Long Yu. In that case, there was only one possibility. Someone was trying to matchmake Long Yu and Feng Yao. Ling Han was also a little surprised. He didn't expect that there was such a relationship between Long Yu and Feng Yao. They were obviously extremely powerful. This Frost Dragon Break is definitely a high-grade martial skill. Moreover, Lu Mingxian has already comprehended it to the initial realm. Long Yu's eyes flashed with anticipation. Let me see how strong the defense of the demon subduing Vajra barrier is. Thinking of this, he still didn't dodge. He faced the two Frost Dragon Xin Qi head-on, still intending to take it head-on. This scene caused Ling Han's heart to tremble. No, I can't be impulsive. Junior brother Long, you should have enough confidence to face them head-on. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't have not dodged. Ling Han took a step forward, but in the end, he didn't make a move. He chose to believe in Long Yu. At this moment, facing the two Frost Dragons Xin Qi, Long Yu felt a strong impact of at least 60,000 to 70,000 kilograms. He used all his strength to stabilize his feet, and then the Xin Qi in his body began to surge towards the surface of his body. Demon subduing Vajra barrier, condense. In the next moment, a layer of faint golden light appeared on the surface of Long Yu's body, making him look incomparably holy. The two Frost Dragons Xin Qi attacked Long Yu's body from the left and right. Instantly, a strong impact came, causing him to almost lose his footing. But then, the layer of faint golden demon subduing Vajra barrier suddenly lit up, producing a wave of holy energy that actually dissolved the strong impact in the first instant. As for Long Yu's body, amidst the surging profound chi, he remained majestically still, as steady as Mount Tai. Looking at Long Yu's majestic body, everyone was shocked. Whether it was Ling Han, Feng Yao, or the other disciples of the Jintian clan and the Ice sect, none of them had expected that Long Yu would be able to withstand the Frost Dragon break so easily. The most shocked of all was Lu Mingxian. How is this possible? Frost Dragon break is an upper-rank martial technique that I have just cultivated. Even though it is only at the initial stage, the two Frost Dragon Xian Qi add up to 70,000 kilograms of impact force. How can this trash not move at all? Lu Mingxuan's eyes were filled with disbelief. Was this trash in front of him, Long Yu, really only at the 6th level of the martial path? Even an expert at the 7th level of the martial path wouldn't be able to withstand his Frost Dragon break so easily. What's wrong? Could it be that this is your strongest power? Long Yu said with a disdainful smile. If that's the case, a dog like you has no right to bark in front of me. As soon as his voice fell, Lu Mingxian flew into a rage out of humiliation. Just as he was about to use a stronger martial technique to deal with Long Yu, the clear sound of horse hooves suddenly came from the distance, causing everyone's expression to change. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw a group of martial cultivators in golden armor riding over. The Imperial Princess has arrived. Chapter 35. The identity of the Imperial Princess was enough to make anyone's face change color. When the galloping sounds of horses could be heard, Feng Yao quickly persuaded Lu Mingxian, "Cousin, the Imperial Princess is here. Let's not fight for now." As she spoke, she glanced at Long Yu with an indifferent look in her eyes. As for this trash, there will be plenty of opportunities to teach him a lesson in the future. To be honest, Feng Yao was very shocked that Long Yu was able to block 2 of Lu Mingxuan's martial skills. However, the impression that Long Yu was trash was too deep in her mind. She was not sure if it was Long Yu's own strength. There was also the possibility that Long Yu had some sort of powerful defensive weapon on him. This wasn't an impossibility. In any case, now that the Imperial Princess was here, it was not appropriate for them to continue fighting. They could only stop for now. Humph, this trash is lucky. Lu Mingxian was unwilling, but he could only glare at Long Yu. If I meet you in the ancient ginseng forest, I will definitely kill you. That depends on whether you have the ability to kill me. Long Yu glanced at him, then turned around and retreated to Ling Han's side. He was not afraid of Lu Mingxian, but it was indeed not appropriate for him to continue fighting. One of the reasons was that it was not convenient for him to fight now that the Imperial Princess was here. Another reason was that if he really wanted to defeat Lu Mingxian, he would definitely use the power of the Blizzard Boots. If that happened, all his trump cards would be exposed, and it would be disadvantageous for the trip to the ancient ginseng forest the next morning. It would not be too late to fight Lu Mingxian alone after entering the ancient ginseng forest the next day. Junior brother Long Yu, congratulations. Ling Han saw a group of golden-armored martial cultivators approaching on horseback and could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Finally, the situation could be resolved. He felt that if Long Yu and Lu Mingxian continued fighting, the one who would lose would definitely be Long Yu. Now that Long Yu had blocked 2 of Lu Mingxuan's martial skills and even used a high-grade martial skill, Frost Dragon Break, he had already proved his strength. If this continued, Long Yu might not be able to withstand it. Thank you, senior brother Ling Han. Long Yu smiled and did not say much. Then, he focused his attention on the end of the street in the distance, where a group of golden-armored martial cultivators were riding their horses. The 6 members of the Jintian clan and the 4 from the Ice sect stood on either side of the street, staring at the group of people. Not long after, the other party finally came close enough for everyone to see the group's attire. In front and behind, there were 10 horses moving side by side. A total of 20 golden-armored martial cultivators were protecting an absolute beauty in the middle of the formation. The peerlessly beautiful girl was wearing a noble snow-white silk robe and riding a white horse. She wore a beautiful flower crown on her head, and there was a gentle smile on her flawless face. Is that the imperial princess? Long Yu saw this, but he did not pay attention to it. Instead, his gaze moved to the person beside the princess. That person seemed to be the leader of the 20 golden-armored martial cultivators. He wore a golden helmet and held a golden spear. He looked to be in his early 20s, but his cultivation was extremely strong. At least, he was much stronger than Feng Yun. I wonder if a number 1 core disciple of the Jintian clan, Feng Yun, is a match for that golden-armored young man, Long Yu thought to himself. However, what he paid attention to the most was not the golden-armored young man's strength, but his appearance. Whether it was his eyes, nose, or mouth, the golden-armored young man actually looked somewhat similar to Long Yu himself. Seeing this, Long Yu quietly took a step back, hiding behind Ling Han. My identity is probably related to that golden-armored young man. Long Yu's eyes flashed as he thought to himself. For so many years, my foster father has never told me about my identity. Obviously, he has some misgivings about it. Before I become stronger, it's better for me to avoid the sharp edge. Temporary forbearance was for the sake of rising stronger in the future. Long Yu had just started on the martial Dao. Although he had the 9 Underworld Dragon Seal, he could not be too careless. The imperial family was extremely powerful. Not to mention the current Long Yu, even the entire Jintian clan did not dare to go against them. Soon, the 20 golden-armored martial cultivators came to the center of the crowd, protecting the imperial princess in a snow-white silk robe. When they arrived, they pulled the reins and stopped the fierce horses. Jintian clan, Ice Sect. The beautiful imperial princess smiled. Everyone's cultivation is extraordinary. You are all the young talents of the Great Tang Empire. I hope that this trip to the ancient ginseng forest will let you all gain something. Thank you, Princess. Lu Mingxian couldn't wait and said with a smile, thinking that he was handsome, I am Lu Mingxian from the imperial city's Lu family. It is my honor to meet the princess here. So is the Lu family. The imperial princess said with a polite smile, the Lu family has been rooted in the imperial city for generations. I believe that father has seen it with his eyes. Princess is too polite. Lu Mingxian suddenly felt proud of himself. Being born into a noble family was different. Even the princess praised him. Little did he know that Long Yu could not help but despise him in his heart. So the imperial city's Lu family is just a business family. I thought it was some powerful force with military power. No wonder Lu Mingxian was only at the 7th level of the martial Dao. If he was really a disciple of a powerful family, his cultivation realm would definitely be higher. Princess, it seems that this time, the disciples of the Ice Sect and the Jintian clan are a little weaker. But the girl from the Thousand Thread Sect is a little strong. At this moment, the golden-armored young man who bore a slight resemblance to Long Yu smiled as he spoke to the princess. Although he seemed to be chatting casually, his face was filled with obvious arrogance. Obviously, this golden-armored young man didn't think highly of the members of the 3 great sects. Not all. Those who can enter the ancient ginseng forest are the future pillars of the Tang dynasty. They're just temporarily lacking in resources. The imperial princess smiled and said gently, All right, we will leave first. Everyone, go back and rest first. We will enter the ancient ginseng forest early tomorrow morning. I wish you all good luck in advance. Thank you, Princess. Everyone answered in unison and then watched the princess leave under the escort of the golden-armored martial cultivators. How arrogant. In the Ice Sect, Lu Mingxian was very unhappy when he thought of the golden-armored young man's words. All right, he's the princess's guard. At such a young age, his cultivation is already so high that we can't see through him. It is natural for him to say that. Feng Yao narrowed her eyes and turned to leave after saying this. She was going to enter the ancient ginseng forest tomorrow. Her imaginary opponent was the so-called Princess Qian Si of the Thousand Thread Sect. As for the trash Long Yu here, she could not be bothered with him. In Feng Yao's eyes, Long Yu was not on the same level as her at all. Senior brother Ling Han, we should leave too, right? On the Jintian clan side, one of them asked Ling Han. At this time, Ling Han was looking in the direction of the princess's departure, as if he had not had enough. Hearing someone call him, he came back to his senses. What? Oh, we should go back. Huh, senior brother Ling Han. Don't tell me you have taken a fancy to the princess. Immediately, someone joked. Don't talk nonsense. It's just that the princess is so beautiful. Can't I look at her more? Ling Han laughed. By the way, the golden-armored martial cultivator who spoke just now looks a bit like someone from our sect. Senior brother Ling Han, have you noticed? One of them glanced at Long Yu and asked, Huh, who does he look like? Ling Han did not notice the golden-armored young man at all and was stunned when he heard this. It's the one behind you, junior brother Long Yu. That person sneered. I heard that junior brother Long Yu was chased out by some aristocratic family in the imperial city. I originally thought it was nonsense, but now it seems to be possible. Junior brother Long Yu, am I right? I'm really sorry. I don't know my own background. If you really know so clearly, can you please tell me? Long Yu chuckled and completely ignored the other party's difficulties. That person was speechless for a moment. All right, don't stand here talking nonsense. Hurry up and go back. Hearing this, Ling Han hurriedly interrupted with a smile. Get ready, all of you. Entering the ancient ginseng forest tomorrow might be your opportunity. If you can get a superior grade ancient ginseng, I'm afraid you'll be able to directly advance a level. Speaking of this, the 4 people from the Jintian clan were excited. However, how could ancient ginseng, especially superior grade ancient ginseng, be so easy to obtain? Unless they were extremely lucky, it would be considered not bad if they could get a middle-grade ancient ginseng. Different people had different thoughts as they returned to the inn where they were staying and went to rest. That night, almost everyone had different degrees of insomnia because the first important opportunity in their lives was about to arrive. Entering the ancient ginseng forest would be enough to let their cultivation soar to the sky if they were lucky. Only Long Yu, whose mental strength was too strong, slept like a dead pig. The night passed quickly. Early the next morning, everyone gathered in the courtyard of the inn. Except for Long Yu, everyone was more or less mentally exhausted, including Tan Jian. However, everyone's eyes were filled with excitement. They had been looking forward to entering the ancient ginseng forest for too long. Elder Yu appeared in front of everyone in a black robe. Follow me, we're going to enter the ancient ginseng forest today. All of you must remember, your lives are the most important. Take care of yourselves. Elder Yu reminded them one last time before leading them out of the inn and toward the back of the city of ancient ginseng. Not long after, they arrived at the back gate of the city of ancient ginseng. As long as they passed through the back gate, they would arrive at the ancient ginseng forest, which was like the backyard of the royal family. At the city gate, a total of 53 disciples from the Ice sect, the Thousand Thread sect, and the Jintian clan had gathered. Each of them was led by an elder. The princess of the royal family and the golden-armored martial cultivators stood at the front. Without the permission of the members of the royal family, the gate to the ancient ginseng forest would not be opened. After everyone had arrived, the golden-armored young man who looked similar to Long Yu stood out and glanced at everyone with a hint of pride in his eyes. Now, all of you will enter the ancient ginseng forest. There is only one rule. If a superior grade ancient ginseng appears, it will belong to the royal family no matter what. Do you understand? The golden-armored young man warned sternly. Understood. Everyone was a little excited. They were about to enter the ancient ginseng forest. Their opportunity was coming. As for superior grade ancient ginseng, how could it appear so easily? Chapter 36. In the crowd, Long Yu carefully observed the disciples of the Thousand Thread sect and the Ice sect. He quickly understood their situation. Among the disciples of the Thousand Thread sect, a woman in yellow stood proudly with her hands behind her back. Judging from her figure, she was Princess Qianxi, who had stopped Long Yu at the city gate. Princess Qianxi's name is Yu Qianing. She's at the 8th stage of the martial path and has a high-ranked combat weapon, the Thousand Shadow Needle. Among the 53 people who entered the forest, Yu Qianing is the strongest. I can't fight her at the beginning. Long Yu thought to himself as he shifted his gaze in another direction. In the ice sect, apart from Feng Yao and Lu Mingxian, there were 2 other people who had reached the 8th stage of the martial path. They were a man and a woman, who seemed to be a pair of brother and sister. They both wore gray robes and were very low-key. Their figures were thin, as if they could be blown away by a gust of wind. Together with Tan Jian, who was at the 8th stage of the martial path from the Jinqing clan, these 4 people were people that Long Yu couldn't fight when he first entered the forest. However, they would stay in the forest for a total of 10 days. If Long Yu could reach the 7th stage of the martial path during this time, he might be able to fight against these 4 people. Soon, the imperial princess brought the imperial family's order to open the city gate to the forest. As the huge city gate slowly descended, everyone's eyes became even more blazing. "Everyone, please come in." The princess, who was dressed in a snow-white silk robe, smiled gently and pointed at the ancient ginseng forest behind the city gate. A total of 53 disciples from the 3 sects immediately rushed in. Their figures flickered, and in an instant, they all entered the ancient ginseng forest. Long Yu leisurely followed at the back. Only after everyone had entered did he step over the city gate and step onto the land of the ancient ginseng forest. This ancient ginseng forest is really big. Long Yu looked in front of him and found that the entire mountain range was within the range of the ancient ginseng forest. Ancient trees towered into the sky, but it wasn't as humid as the soaring serpent abyss. Instead, it was more spacious and dry. Suddenly, Long Yu felt a gaze pass through the forest and land on him from a hidden place in front of him. "Is someone targeting me?" Long Yu sneered, but he didn't care much. Other than the 4 people he had noticed earlier, he wasn't afraid of the others. As for those 4 people, they must have already advanced into the depths of the ancient ginseng forest to search for high-grade ancient ginseng. How could they be so bored as to stand at the edge and stare at Long Yu? Feng Yao, Lu Mingxian, or Feng Qianqian? Long Yu excluded Tan Jian. After all, based on his understanding of Tan Jian, he knew that the most important thing to Tan Jian was to increase his cultivation level. Teaching Long Yu a lesson was secondary to that, and helping Tan Yu vent her anger. Whether it was Feng Yao, Lu Mingxian, or Feng Qianqian, Long Yu was confident that he could defeat all of them. After pondering for a moment, he lifted his foot and directly strode into the forest of ancient ginseng. It wasn't easy to find high-grade ancient ginseng, but there were more low-grade and mid-grade ancient ginseng. If he could find 1 or 2 of them and absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, he would be able to improve a little. As Long Yu advanced into the depths of the ancient ginseng forest, he soon noticed that someone was following him, but he did not show himself. "I'm afraid he thinks that I haven't discovered him, and is waiting for me to be distracted to launch a sneak attack." Long Yu sneered in his heart. He could only say that his opponent was too stupid and naive. In the ancient ginseng forest, ancient trees towered into the sky. Each tree had a trunk so thick that it would take more than 10 people to encircle it. Every time Long Yu passed by an ancient tree, he would memorize the shape and location of the ancient tree so that he would not get lost in the forest. After an hour, Long Yu had completely penetrated more than 50 li into the ancient ginseng forest. The surroundings were desolate and uninhabited. Only the person who had been following Long Yu since the beginning was still persistently following him. There's the aura of spiritual qi of heaven and earth. There should be an ancient ginseng nearby. At that moment, Long Yu smelled a fragrant aroma, which made him excited. He immediately sprinted toward the source of the aroma. As for the person following him, he also quickened his pace. Obviously, he also felt the aura of the ancient ginseng. Such impatient pace, this tracking method is really too clumsy. Long Yu remained calm and ran in front. Not long after, he came to the side of a small stream. Finally, he saw a plant that looked like withered grass growing on the bank of the stream, exuding waves of intoxicating fragrance. Ancient ginseng, low-grade ancient ginseng. Long Yu was delighted. Although it was a low-grade ancient ginseng, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth contained in it was equivalent to a low-grade medicinal pill, relying on the heaven-defying ability of the 9 underworld's dragon seal. Even if Long Yu only absorbed low-grade ancient ginseng, the effect was better than ordinary people absorbing mid-grade ancient ginseng. It would definitely allow him to take a big step forward in the 6th stage of the martial path. However, just as Long Yu took a step toward the low-grade ancient ginseng, the mysterious person who had followed him all the way here finally made a move. Long Yu dot. This palm was Feng Qianqian's sure kill attack. It gathered all the strength in her body and slapped towards Long Yu's head. Dark Gale Break. The close-range mysterious wind break martial skill was even more powerful. This palm strike contained a terrifying force of at least 60 to 70,000 Jin. Even a human-shaped boulder would be smashed into smithereens by this palm strike. Feng Qianqian thought that even if Long Yu had practiced a body-refining martial skill, his body couldn't be as hard as a boulder. Long Yu's speed wasn't as fast as hers, and his strength wasn't as strong as hers. This palm would definitely kill Long Yu. Facing Feng Qianqian's sure kill attack, Long Yu only let out a cold laugh. Flash Wind Step Blizzard Boots. With a thought, Long Yu immediately used Flash Wind Step and activated the Blizzard Boots. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a gentle breeze as he retreated at an extremely fast speed. The Pinnacle Flash Wind Step and the Blizzard Boots allowed Long Yu's speed to far exceed Feng Qianqian's. Swoosh! The air rippled as Feng Qianqian's palm hit the air. Her face immediately revealed a look of disbelief. How could this trash, Long Yu, be so fast? That's right, combat weapon. Feng Qianqian immediately saw the Blizzard Boots on Long Yu's feet. The snow-white color was very eye-catching. Normally, the Blizzard Boots looked like ordinary shoes, but once the acceleration effect was activated, the boots would be covered with a layer of ice and snow. Extremely beautiful. A combat weapon with the acceleration effect, even if it's just a low-ranked combat weapon, is rare and priceless. I didn't expect this trash to have such a treasure. Feng Qianqian was even more determined to kill Long Yu. She was finally going to use her trump card. As an inner disciple of the Jintian clan, she naturally had a combat weapon, the Wandering Soul's Glove, together with the high-ranked martial skill that only inner disciples were qualified to practice, the Soul Snatching Palm. Killing a mere Long Yu would be a piece of cake. She clenched her right hand into a fist, and the glove on her glove suddenly emitted a black mist. Following that, she moved quickly and suddenly dashed towards Long Yu. Show me how you can run again. Feng Qianqian sneered. A ghostly claw formed from the black mist instantly flew out, and in the blink of an eye, it grabbed the fast-moving Long Yu, causing him to be unable to move. Soul Snatching Palm, a high-ranked martial skill. It could actually condense mystic qi into a ghostly claw and immobilize the opponent. Long Yu's expression changed. At this moment, Feng Qianqian's palm that was filled with killing intent came flying towards him. Die! The palm with the Wandering Soul's Glove had a force of 80 to 90,000 Jin. With one palm strike, Long Yu would definitely die. Bang! The palm wind attacked, and in an instant, it was imprinted on Long Yu's head. However, Long Yu's body shattered like an afterimage and gradually disappeared. Feng Qianqian's punch had actually hit Long Yu's afterimage. What? The peak realm of Flash Wind Step? Feng Qianqian seemed to immediately understand something. Her expression changed, but it was too late to react. A powerful aura descended from the sky and suppressed her. Even with her strength at the 7th stage of the martial path, her movements were hindered by the power of this aura. Following that, Long Yu's figure flashed behind her, and the 9 Underworld's dragon seal was activated. A heavy punch filled with great force landed on her back, sending her frail body flying. Chapter 37. Feng Qianqian was sent flying and fell to the ground. She immediately fainted. Long Yu regained his composure and walked to Feng Qianqian's side. He took off the combat weapon, the Wandering Soul's glove, from her hand. After putting on the Wandering Soul's glove, Long Yu casually threw 2 punches. He found that the Wandering Soul's glove actually increased the strength of his right hand by 30%, and this was only the effect of a low-ranked combat weapon. It was hard to imagine what kind of strength a martial artist with a mid-rank combat weapon or even a high-rank combat weapon would possess. Feng Qianqian, I'll let you go this time. If there's a next time, I won't show any mercy. Long Yu thought to himself. He turned around and walked to the stream and carefully picked the low-ranked ancient ginseng. Then, he raised his head and looked around. It seems like the only place where I can safely absorb the energy of the low-ranked ancient ginseng is on a tree. After Long Yu finished thinking, he quickly moved his feet. He ran to an ancient tree with dense leaves not far away and climbed up the tree using both his hands and feet. Soon, he was hidden in the leaves of the tree. He looked down and could see the scene in the distance. Even if there was any danger, he would be able to detect it first. As for him, he quietly sat in the forest. He believed that no one would be able to find him. Then, without wasting any time, he directly put the low-ranked ancient ginseng in his mouth and began to absorb the energy of heaven and earth. At the same time, the 9 Underworld's dragon seal was activated. After taking many pills, Long Yu was already very familiar with the usage of the 9 Underworld's dragon seal. At this moment, he easily stored 70% of the low-grade ancient ginseng's spiritual energy in the 9 Underworld's dragon seal. As for the remaining 30% of spiritual qi, it was all absorbed by Long Yu. The profound energy in his body strengthened once again. Soon, his basic strength increased from 32,000 pounds to 33,000 pounds. The effect is not bad. Long Yu was quite satisfied. He immediately absorbed the remaining 70% of the 9 Underworld's dragon seal's energy. 34,000 pounds. 35,000 pounds. Long Yu completely absorbed the low-ranked ancient ginseng's energy. The profound energy in his body surged and increased. However, this was only a drop in the bucket for his current 6th stage of the martial path. If he wanted to advance, it was far from enough. A low-grade ancient ginseng was completely absorbed by Long Yu just like that. Not a single drop of spiritual energy was wasted. If this news were to spread, it would definitely be shocking. He hid among the leaves at the top of the ancient tree and began to recover. The battle with Feng Qianqian just now had consumed some of the profound qi in his body. If he did not recover to his peak state, Long Yu would not continue his journey again. Unknowingly, the sun set in the west and the sky began to darken. At this time, Long Yu suddenly felt a wave of dense heaven and earth spiritual qi gradually coming from afar until his whole body was shrouded, and it was getting denser and denser. Someone is carrying an ancient ginseng and is approaching me. Long Yu felt a chill in his heart. Judging from the rich spiritual qi of heaven and earth, the approaching ancient ginseng was absolutely not just a low-grade ancient ginseng. It should be a middle-grade ancient ginseng. As for high-grade ancient ginseng, it was still impossible because the spiritual energy of high-grade medicinal pills was much denser than this, and it was not like Long Yu had never seen it before. Middle-grade ancient ginseng, if possible, I will snatch it. Of course, Long Yu was not a pushover. Once he encountered an opportunity to improve his strength, he would not hesitate at all. But soon, a familiar person appeared in front of him. He looked down from above and saw a figure several miles away running toward him, wearing a white robe. It was the disciple of the Jintian clan, Ling Han. Ling Han was running with a middle-grade ancient ginseng in his hand, but it seemed that he was injured, so his running speed was not very fast. Then, another figure appeared behind him. It turned out to be the disciple of the ice sect in a blue silk robe, Lu Mingxian. Lu Mingxian injured senior brother Ling Han. A cold light flashed in Long Yu's eyes. It seemed that he had to take action again. Ling Han ran all the way. His face was solemn. It was obvious that his leg was injured, and he was afraid that Lu Mingxian would soon catch up to him. Lu Mingxian chased after him, laughing loudly. Ling Han, where do you think you are running to? Obediently hand over the middle-grade ancient ginseng, or else when I catch up to you, I will definitely cripple your cultivation and turn you into a cripple. Looking at his proud expression, it was obvious that he thought that Ling Han was already a turtle in a jar and could not escape no matter what. In fact, if he had not coincidentally arrived near Long Yu, Ling Han would not have been able to escape. But now, Lu Mingxian was seeking his own death. Is he going to cripple senior brother Ling Han? How ruthless! Long Yu thought to himself and narrowed his eyes. He did not have a good impression of Lu Mingxian. Junior sister Feng? At this moment, Ling Han, who was running in front, saw the unconscious Feng Qianqian on the ground. His expression changed, and he hurriedly stopped to check on Feng Qianqian's injuries. Seeing this, Long Yu was momentarily stunned. This Ling Han was really warm-hearted. He was still being chased by a strong enemy, but he still had the mood to stop and check on Feng Qianqian. Ling Han, you really are a good person, haha. Lu Mingxian chased from behind and laughed loudly. Unfortunately, in this world, good people like you never live long. As he laughed, he sprinted towards Feng Qianqian, creating a strong gust of wind. At this moment, Long Yu, who was on an ancient tree, finally found an opportunity. He jumped down towards Lu Mingxian and threw a heavy punch. A faint layer of black mist appeared on his fist as he put on the soul ascending glove, increasing the strength of his punch to over 50,000 Jin. Long Yu was not stupid. Naturally, he would not make any noise when he was launching a sneak attack. By the time Lu Mingxian noticed the abnormality above his head, Long Yu's fist was already inches away. Trash dares to launch a sneak attack. Lu Mingxian came to his senses and stopped in his tracks. A fierce look flashed across his eyes. Then, he waved his arms and gathered his celestial qi. Two ice dragons formed from celestial qi and roared towards Long Yu. Suddenly, the attacks from both sides exploded in midair. In a hurry, Lu Mingxian's ice dragon break was not strong, so it was broken by a single punch from Long Yu. Then, Long Yu's body was not hindered, and his punch continued towards Lu Mingxian. Movement technique. Lu Mingxian moved his feet, his body as light as the wind, and instantly retreated a few steps. Long Yu jumped down from the ancient tree. Without a foothold, he could not chase after Lu Mingxian. He could only balance his body and stand still where Lu Mingxian was. Junior brother Long Yu? Ling Han could not believe his eyes, but upon closer inspection, it was really Long Yu who had suddenly appeared and forced Lu Mingxian to retreat. Senior brother Ling Han, take senior sister Feng and leave first. Long Yu said without turning his head. How can I do that? How can I leave you alone in the face of a strong enemy? Don't worry, I will definitely fight alongside you. Ling Han's words were filled with righteousness. Then, senior brother, please take care of senior sister Feng first. Otherwise, she might be targeted by the thieves and become a hostage. Long Yu could only persuade him in a roundabout way. Hearing this, Ling Han thought it made sense. If someone suddenly appeared and kidnapped Feng Qianqian, wouldn't they be in a passive position? Thinking of this, Ling Han carried Feng Qianqian and retreated to the side of an ancient tree. Junior brother Long Yu, hold him off for a while. I will come to help you immediately. Ling Han shouted and began to check on Feng Qianqian's injuries. Lu Mingxian steadied himself and faced Long Yu with a disdainful smile. Trash, you dare to take the initiative to appear in front of me? See if I don't cripple you and turn you into a real trash. You can try, Long Yu said calmly. I have something to warn you. Young Master Wang Tianjua of the Imperial City's Wang family has taken a liking to cousin Feng Yao. Lu Mingxian was extremely arrogant as he said disdainfully, a trash like you better stay away from cousin Feng Yao. Which eye of yours can tell that I'm close to Feng Yao? Long Yu said indifferently. Didn't you want to cripple me? What's with all this nonsense? Since you're in a hurry to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Lu Mingxian snorted coldly as the celestial qi in his body surged. His blue silk robe fluttered in the wind, showing that his cultivation was extraordinary. Suddenly, Lu Mingxuan's feet moved gracefully, and he executed a movement martial skill, rapidly attacking Long Yu. His arms were gradually covered with celestial qi, like two roaring ice dragons. This time, he used the Frost Dragon Break at close range because it was even more powerful. Lu Mingxuan's speed was extremely fast, but Long Yu used Wind Step and Blizzard Boots, so his speed was not slower than his. Long Yu's body turned into a light breeze and instantly flashed to the side, causing Lu Mingxuan's Frost Dragon Break to hit empty air. There's actually a pair of boots like this. Lu Mingxuan's eyes lit up, as surprised as Feng Qianqian. This was a good thing. Today, you will be crippled without a doubt, Lu Mingxian said fiercely. Then, a thin black iron chain quietly drilled out of his blue silk sleeve, like the most sinister of vipers, and instantly wrapped around Long Yu's body. Lu Mingxuan's combat weapon was actually such a thin black iron chain. Immediately after, Lu Mingxuan's arm shook, and he continued to use the Frost Dragon Break at close range. This was a high-grade martial skill, and he had comprehended it to the small success stage. Its power was the strongest. Trash, go to hell. Lu Mingxuan's eyes flashed with cruelty as he swung his arms at Long Yu. Not too far away, Ling Han raised his head to look and saw that Long Yu was firmly locked in place by Lu Mingxian. He was about to be struck by break of the Frost Dragon, and his heart involuntarily skipped a beat. Junior brother, Ling Han exclaimed. However, it was too late for him to do anything because the distance was too far. At this moment, Ling Han seemed to see the scene of Long Yu being knocked back by the punch and then seriously injured. Facing Lu Mingxian, who was at the 7th stage of the martial path, no matter how strong Long Yu was, it was impossible for him to withstand a full blow. However, Long Yu was destined to shock everyone. Lu Mingxuan's arms struck out heavily, instantly smashing onto Long Yu's shoulders. However, in the next instant, Long Yu disappeared like a shadow, causing both Lu Mingxian and Ling Han to be stunned. The same technique was used again, but it had the same effect. Didn't you want to cripple me? Now let's see who crippled who. Chapter 38. The trace of heaven-suppressing intent that Long Yu had comprehended had also increased along with his increase in martial Dao realm. At this moment, the heaven-suppressing intent enveloped Lu Mingxian, who was in the 7th stage of the martial Dao, and slowed his movements. It was as if a heavy pressure had descended from the sky, making it difficult for him to turn around. Facing Long Yu's strongest punch, Lu Mingxian barely managed to block it, but he only used less than 30% of his strength. The two fists collided, and with a loud bang, Long Yu's punch repelled Lu Mingxian. Long Yu had cultivated the demon-subduing tyrant body, so his tyrannical strength couldn't hurt him at all. However, Lu Mingxian retreated several steps, feeling as if his fist was about to shatter. Trash! Lu Mingxuan's eyes seemed to be spitting fire. Just as he spat out those two words, Long Yu's attack arrived in the blink of an eye. Take a good look. Who's the trash? In terms of speed, you're inferior to me. In terms of strength, you're also inferior to me. Where do you get the confidence to say that you'll cripple me? Long Yu bellowed as he sent punch after punch towards Lu Mingxian. Lu Mingxuan's cultivation was at the 7th stage of the martial path, and his strength was as strong as 64,000 kilograms. However, Long Yu had the upper hand, and Lu Mingxuan's punches had caused him to lose his balance, and he was unable to exert his full strength. One punch after another, Lu Mingxian couldn't take anymore. Finally, when Long Yu threw out his 18th punch, he was punched in the abdomen and sent flying. Since you wanted to cripple me, I'll cripple you first. Long Yu's eyes flashed fiercely. He took a step forward and completely suppressed Lu Mingxian with a heaven-suppressing intent. Under the suppression of the intent, the injured Lu Mingxian could barely move. Long Yu's figure turned into a light breeze, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Lu Mingxian and stomped on his dantian. Puffed. Lu Mingxuan's eyes popped out of their sockets from the heavy kick. His dantian was shattered, and his profound qi was scattered. He, an inner disciple of the ice sect at the 7th rank of the martial path, had been crippled by a kid who was only at the 6th rank of the martial path. From then on, Lu Mingxian had no fate with the path of martial arts. He could only live on in humiliation as a cripple. Young Master Wang Tianzhuo of the royal city won't let you off. Lu Mingxian uttered those words with great difficulty while he was heavily injured. Whether or not he will let me go is a matter for the future. But now, you are already crippled. Long Yu said coldly. When Lu Mingxian heard that, he could not take the blow. He fell backward and fainted. Not far away, Ling Han was just about to step forward to help Long Yu deal with Lu Mingxian. However, he couldn't help but widen his eyes upon seeing this. How is this possible? Junior brother Long Yu actually crippled Lu Mingxian all by himself. Ling Han couldn't believe what he was seeing. How could a 6th rank martial path defeat a 7th rank martial path? This completely subverted Ling Han's understanding of martial arts. At this moment, Long Yu also felt the blood in his body churning. He had just exchanged 18 punches with Lu Mingxian. Although he had won in the end, Lu Mingxian was still an expert at the 7th rank of the martial Dao, so he had suffered quite a bit of injuries. Fortunately, with the protection of the demon subduing tyrant body, Long Yu's injuries weren't too serious. He should be able to fully recover after a night of rest. Senior brother Ling Han, why were you being chased by Lu Mingxian? Long Yu turned his head and asked Ling Han. I found a mid-grade ancient ginseng, but was besieged by 2 ice sect disciples. Ling Han began to narrate what had happened, a cold light flashing in his eyes. I finally defeated them and snatched the mid-grade ancient ginseng, but Lu Mingxian suddenly launched a sneak attack. If it wasn't for my quick-wittedness, I would have long been crippled by him. When Long Yu heard this, he felt that Lu Mingxian was really sinister and cunning. They were both in the 7th rank of the martial Dao, but he had to launch a sneak attack to deal with Ling Han. He was arrogant and cruel to the extreme. Now that his cultivation had been crippled by Long Yu, he could only blame himself. Junior brother, are you injured? Take this mid-grade ancient ginseng and eat it first, Ling Han said as he handed the mid-grade ancient ginseng to Long Yu. Long Yu was taken aback. Senior brother, what do you mean by this? This mid-grade ancient ginseng was obtained by senior brother, so it should be used by senior brother. When Ling Han heard this, he firmly said, don't refuse. If it wasn't for junior brother's help, I would have been caught by Lu Mingxian and my cultivation would have been crippled. Now that you've fought a great battle, it's time to nourish your body. This mid-grade ancient ginseng is most suitable for you. Nourish my body. When Long Yu heard these 3 words, he felt that it was strange. However, when he saw Ling Han's firm attitude, as if he wouldn't give up until he gave it to him, he could only accept it calmly. The mid-grade ancient ginseng looked slightly larger than the low-grade ancient ginseng, but the spiritual qi it contained was much denser. Just when Long Yu was about to start absorbing the mid-grade ancient ginseng, Ling Han suddenly asked, that's right, junior brother, why is junior sister Feng here? And why is she unconscious? Also, the combat weapon you're using. She has been following me since I entered the ancient ginseng forest until she found a low-grade ancient ginseng. She suddenly launched a sneak attack on me and tried to kill me. Long Yu gave a simple explanation. With this explanation, Ling Han basically understood what had happened and couldn't help but let out a sigh. I didn't expect junior sister Feng to be so stupid. This ancient ginseng forest is a place to search for opportunities, but she's so stubborn to attack her fellow disciple. Sigh. Ling Han didn't blame Long Yu. He already knew that there was some conflict between Feng Qianqian and Long Yu, but he didn't expect Feng Qianqian to attack him so quickly. Junior brother, you should consume the ancient ginseng first. I'll protect you while treating my injuries. As Ling Han spoke, he had Feng Qianqian in a clump of bushes to avoid being discovered by others, who would do something nefarious. Long Yu nodded his head and sat down with his legs crossed. He glanced into the distance and said, "Oh right, senior brother, Lu Mingxuan's combat weapon seems to be pretty good. Since senior brother has given me the ancient ginseng, I'll let you keep the iron chain." Ling Han's eyes instantly lit up after hearing this. That's right. How could I have forgotten about this? Ling Han ran to the place where Long Yu had left his afterimage and picked up a thin black iron chain. This iron chain was also a low-ranked combat weapon. If used properly, it could play a miraculous role in a battle. Night gradually fell, and the ancient ginseng forest was completely silent. Although there were more than 50 disciples entering the forest, the ancient ginseng forest was just too big. The chances of encountering others were too small. Moreover, at night, most people would choose to rest first instead of continuing their journey. Long Yu sat cross-legged and spent the whole night absorbing the mid-ranked ancient ginseng into his body. His basic strength had increased to 40,000 jin, which was the limit of the 6th stage of the martial path. If he didn't break through to the 7th stage of the martial path, his basic strength wouldn't increase anymore. When the first ray of sunlight shone through the shade of the trees and onto Long Yu's body, he finally opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with a bright light. After absorbing the mid-ranked ancient ginseng, my basic strength has reached 40,000 jin. Due to the influence of the demon vanquishing tyrant body, a single punch can reach at least 50,000 jin. Coupled with the 9 underworld dragon seals, 10,000 jin, it's a total of 60,000 jin. Coupled with the upstream soul glove, ordinary experts in the 7th stage of the martial path are no match for me. The current Long Yu had a clear understanding of his own strength. However, he wasn't optimistic about his next course of action. If I want to break through to the 7th stage of the martial path, I must find a high-ranked ancient ginseng. However, only 2 or 3 high-ranked ancient ginseng appear every year. Even if I find one, it won't be easy to get it. As Long Yu pondered, he surveyed his surroundings and saw that Ling Han was currently familiarizing himself with the usage of the black metal shackles. After a night of use, Ling Han was already proficient in using the black iron chain combat weapon. Moreover, the injury on his leg from Lu Mingxuan's sneak attack had almost recovered. "Junior brother, you're awake." Seeing Long Yu open his eyes, Ling Han laughed and strode to his side. "I've already taken care of that trash, Lu Mingxian. Let's set off again today and see if we can find more ancient ginseng." When Long Yu heard this, he was stunned. He didn't expect Ling Han to be so decisive. Originally, Long Yu had wanted to do it himself yesterday, but due to the poor flow of blood in his body, he chose to consume the mid-ranked ancient ginseng first. Now that Ling Han had taken care of Lu Mingxian, there was no need for Long Yu to do it himself. Obviously, although Ling Han was a righteous and hot-blooded person, he also knew that if he didn't kill Lu Mingxian at this time, it would only cause more trouble. This iron chain must not be used unless it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, others will see through it. While saying this, Ling Han put the thin black iron chain into his robe. The two searched around and confirmed that they didn't leave any traces behind. Only then did they relax. However, to their surprise, Feng Qianqian had secretly left last night when they weren't paying attention. It seemed that she also knew that the most important thing in coming to the ancient ginseng forest was to find ancient ginseng and not to fight to the death with Long Yu. Not to mention, she was no match for Long Yu at all. Even the wandering soul gloves had been taken away by Long Yu. After cleaning up the area, Long Yu and Ling Han set off together. The ancient ginseng forest was extremely vast. It was not easy to find another ancient ginseng, especially a high-ranked one. As they moved forward, Ling Han said, "By the way, junior brother, although I don't know about you and that female disciple of the ice sect, Lu Mingxian said that Wang Tianjua of the Wang family has taken a fancy to her. You have to be careful. Senior brother, don't worry. There's nothing between me and that Feng Yao. She even sent people to kill me before." Long Yu smiled faintly and didn't say anything. As for Feng Yao, he would settle the score with her one day. However, Long Yu didn't expect that day to come so soon. Not long after, the two passed through a small hill and followed the stream downstream. They saw a vast pool, and on the shore of the pool, there were a few people confronting each other. One of them was Feng Yao, who had an ancient bronze sword hanging on her waist. Her light green dress swayed in the breeze, making her look like a fairy. Chapter 39. The high-grade ancient ginseng grew by the side of the pool, emitting a dense amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy. Everyone within 10 miles could clearly feel it. Long Yu and Ling Han had been attracted by this burst of heaven and earth spiritual energy. On the shore of the pool, in addition to Feng Yao, there were 2 other female disciples of the Ice Sect and 3 disciples of the Jinqian clan. A total of 6 people were confronting each other. Even the 3 female disciples of the Ice Sect and the 3 male disciples of the Jinqian clan were on guard against each other. After all, there was only one high-grade ancient ginseng. Whoever could obtain it would be able to take that step forward and advance a level in the martial Tao, greatly increasing their strength. Even if they were from the same sect, they had to fight for this kind of opportunity. But before that, of course, they had to join forces to deal with outsiders. Those 3 male disciples of the heaven-suppressing sect just happened to be 3 of those who had gone out with Ling Han and Long Yu that night. It seemed like they had just entered the ancient ginseng forest, and they had been moving together all the way until now. The 3 of them didn't look too good because they were all at the 6th level of the martial Tao. Even if they joined forces, they wouldn't be a match for Feng Yao, not to mention the other 2 female disciples of the Ice Sect. However, in the face of the temptation of the high-grade ancient ginseng, the 3 of them naturally wouldn't retreat without fighting. It's my junior brothers. I'm going to help them. Ling Han and Long Yu rushed over together. When they saw the situation, their blood immediately boiled, and they wanted to rush out to help. Wait, senior brother. Long Yu grabbed him. Look at the edge of the pool. There are only disciples of the Ice Sect and our Jinqian clan, but no disciples of the Thousand Thread Sect. This is abnormal. It's very likely that the people of the Thousand Thread Sect are hiding there, waiting for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack at any time. When Ling Han heard this, he immediately broke out in a cold sweat. That's right, the people of the Thousand Thread Sect could control shadows to fight, so of course they wouldn't appear openly. If he rushed out like this, wouldn't he become the target of the people of the Thousand Thread Sect? Just as Ling Han was thinking about that, the 6 of them had already started fighting at the edge of the pool. Feng Yao took the lead. Facing the Jinqian clan disciple, she did not show any mercy. She used her upper-grade martial technique, Frost Dragon Break. It was the same Frost Dragon Break, but Feng Yao's Frost Dragon Break was clearly stronger than Lu Mingxuan's. It was clear that Feng Yao's strength surpassed Lu Mingxuan's. Not to mention, Feng Yao hadn't even used the ancient bronze sword at her waist. That was a high-ranked combat weapon. Its power was unimaginable. The Frost Dragon Break had condensed into 3 Frost Dragon Chi, which surged towards the 3 disciples of the Jinqian clan, causing the 3 Jinqian clan disciples to panic. They used their movement skills and retreated one by one. Where are you going? The other 2 female disciples of the Frost Sect let out soft exclamations and flew out to block the path of the 3 Jinqian clan disciples. Mountain-shattering fist. Chi spread out, and with a few punches, the 2 Jinqian clan disciples were instantly defeated, falling heavily to the ground. The remaining person did not dare to stay any longer after seeing the situation. His figure flashed, and he jumped into the bushes at the side. Ah! A scream came from the bushes. Obviously, the Jinqian clan disciple had met with a mishap as soon as he entered the bushes, which made Feng Yao and the others' expressions change slightly. The people of the Thousand Thread Sect are lying in ambush. Feng Yao said in a low voice, "We'll take the upper-grade ancient ginseng and leave immediately." The other 2 female disciples of the Frost Sect also wanted the upper-grade ancient ginseng, but with Feng Yao there, they had no chance at all. Now, they could only leave with Feng Yao. While the 3 of them were discussing, a black shadow suddenly flashed to the edge of the pool and was about to take the upper-grade ancient ginseng away. No way! Feng Yao's expression changed. She could tell that it was a shadow controlled by the Thousand Thread Sect disciple. Swoosh! Swoosh! Feng Yao waved her hand, and two streams of qi condensed and directly attacked the shadow. However, the shadow directly stuck to the ground and dodged her energy attack. The upper-grade ancient ginseng was grabbed by the shadow and uprooted. After the black shadow succeeded, it immediately fled into the bushes at an extremely fast speed. Go after it. Feng Yao's expression darkened. She waved her hand and took the lead to chase. The two female disciples of the Frost sect behind her looked at each other when they saw this. They did not follow Feng Yao closely, but after a while, they began to catch up. Obviously, they had their own plans. If Feng Yao caught up and fought with the people of the Thousand Thread sect, both sides would be injured, and the two of them would be able to reap the benefits. Apart from that, they had no hope of getting the upper-grade ancient ginseng. Feng Yao chased alone and quickly followed the black shadow into the bushes. Although she understood that the shadow controlled by Thousand Thread sect could easily hide in the shadows of the forest, making it impossible for her to find the other party's trail, the other party had a high-grade ancient ginseng. As long as she followed the dense spiritual energy of heaven and earth, she definitely wouldn't lose track of them. However, she did not expect that the moment she entered the bushes, a strong force would immediately entangle her legs. It's the martial technique of the Thousand Thread sect. Feng Yao's heart trembled. Looking down, she saw that two black shadows with arms were entangling her legs like ropes. They contained tens of thousands of kilograms of strength, as if they wanted to crush her legs into pieces. You've been tricked. A gloomy voice came from the shadows nearby, making it impossible to pinpoint its location. However, immediately after, all the black shadows around Feng Yao moved at the same time. The Thousand Thread sect cultivated the Thousand Thread shadow manipulation art and had the ability to control shadows. Moreover, the martial techniques of this sect were also related to shadows. For example, the Thousand Thread sect disciples who were hiding in the shadows controlled the shadows of the nearby ancient trees, causing them to directly entangle Feng Yao. The shadow of the enormous ancient trees was covered in qi and easily covered Feng Yao's body, as if it wanted to suppress and tear her whole body apart. However, in the next moment, a wave of cold qi suddenly exploded from Feng Yao's body. Ice Moon sword art. A flash of sword light instantly broke through the shadow, easily dispersing the qi on it. Immediately after, Feng Yao's figure leaped high into the air and quickly swung her sword in another direction. Ice Moon sword qi. A sword qi that contained an ice-cold aura, like a crescent moon, instantly chopped a thick ancient tree in half. The thick ancient tree collapsed with a loud bang. However, behind the ancient tree, only a trace of the Thousand Thread sect disciples' aura remained. His figure had long since disappeared. Ancient ginseng, over here. Feng Yao did not hesitate. She continued to rely on her perception and chased into the depths of the bushes. With a high-ranked combat weapon, the third copper ancient sword, she could even fight against an expert at the 8th level of the martial Tao. It was because of this that she dared to chase into the forest. Within the bushes, shadows were everywhere. Suddenly, the shadows of two branches rose from beneath her feet, like sinister snakes, once again wrapping around her ankles. Lingering ghosts. Feng Yao's face was filled with impatience. Just as she was about to slash down with the third copper ancient sword in her hand, the shadows suddenly swept toward her from all directions. Even if the Ice Moon sword art was extremely lethal, she could not react in time when faced with the attacks of the shadows from all directions. There's so many shadows and such a strong fluctuation of qi. There's definitely more than one person. Feng Yao instantly reacted. She knew that she had stepped into a trap. However, at this moment, the shadows that were about to wrap around her suddenly retreated. Feng Yao frowned slightly. She did not know what had happened. The other party had launched an attack. So why did they retreat so quickly? However, she quickly understood the reason behind it. In the forest not far away, there were sounds of fighting and explosions of chi. It was obvious that the aura of the high-ranked ancient ginseng had attracted others, causing the Thousand Thread sect disciples to be targeted. In fact, it was Long Yu and Ling Han who had directly gone to deal with the Thousand Thread sect disciples. The two of them had been hiding in the shadows. They had already climbed up high to investigate the situation. This time, the Thousand Thread sect had sent a total of 3 disciples to ambush in the bushes. Among them, 2 were in the 7th stage of the martial path, and the other was in the 6th stage. Taking advantage of the 3 of them besieging Feng Yao, Long Yu and Ling Han suddenly attacked and killed the Thousand Thread sect disciple who had obtained the ancient ginseng with lightning speed. Although the Thousand Thread sect disciple's fighting style was strange and his martial skills were insidious, he did not have much combat strength when approached. He was easily killed by the 2 of them together. The ancient ginseng is here. Joy flashed in Long Yu's eyes as he grasped the high-ranked ancient ginseng. Ling Han was a little excited. "Junior brother, take the ancient ginseng and leave first. I'll stop these people here." He could feel that if Long Yu absorbed the spiritual energy in the high-ranked ancient ginseng, he would very likely advance to the 7th stage of the martial path. Long Yu, who was only in the 6th stage of the martial path, could already defeat an expert in the 7th stage of the martial path. Then, when he advanced to the 7th stage of the martial path, wouldn't he be able to deal with an expert in the 8th stage of the martial path? That way, Long Yu could walk more in the ancient ginseng forest and search for more ancient ginseng for the benefit of the Jintian clan disciples. The reason why Ling Han made such a decision was that he, Ling Han, was still a long way from breaking through to the 8th stage of the martial path. Even the high-ranked ancient ginseng could not help him break through. Handing it over to Long Yu was clearly more effective. Long Yu had never been an indecisive person. When he confirmed that with Ling Han's strength, his life would not be in danger if he stayed, he decisively took the high-ranked ancient ginseng and turned to leave. The situation in this place was too complicated. Not only were there 2 people from the Thousand Thread sect hiding in the dark, but Feng Yao and the other 2 female disciples of the Eye sect were also chasing after him. Most importantly, Long Yu was afraid that more people would come later. If he encountered an expert in the 8th stage of the martial path, the situation would be very bad. Therefore, the most important thing now was to leave with the high-ranked ancient ginseng, find a safe place to absorb the spiritual energy in it, and try to break through to the 7th stage of the martial path. Flash wind step, blizzard boots. Long Yu's eyes flashed with determination. He used the peak realm of Flash Wind Step and the Blizzard Boots, and immediately ran into the depths of the forest. In the shadows of the trees, a shadow was deeply hidden, following him at a speed faster than he could run at full speed. Pooh! 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 A series of black shadows condensed into long needles, shooting out from the shadows at him. A martial technique of the Thousand Thread sect. When Long Yu saw this, he did not hesitate to turn into a light breeze. In an instant, he crossed a distance of 10 meters, easily dodging the black needles. Immediately after, the black shadow that chased after him suddenly disappeared. Long Yu knew that Ling Han had found the true body of the Thousand Thread sect disciple and entangled him. That was why the other party was not in the mood to continue pestering him. At this moment, Ling Han had just killed a 6th-stage disciple of the Thousand Thread sect who was hiding at the top of a tree. Immediately after, he saw Feng Yao quickly chasing after him with an ancient bronze sword in her hand. If you want to chase after someone, you have to pass through me first. Chapter 40. Long Yu quickly avoided the battlefield with a high-grade ancient ginseng. As for Ling Han, he jumped down from the ancient tree and stood in front of Feng Yao. "Ling Han, get out of the way." Feng Yao's expression changed slightly. She knew Ling Han's strength. Among the 16 disciples of the Jintian clan, he was second only to Tan Jian, who was at the 8th level of the martial Tao. If Ling Han was determined to stop her, she definitely wouldn't be able to break through quickly. In that case, the high-grade ancient ginseng would slip away in front of her eyes. It's not impossible for me to get out of the way. Ling Han laughed out loud. Over my dead body. You're courting death. Feng Yao's face darkened. The bronze sword in her hand was immediately covered in a layer of frost. Following that, a sword energy swept out and an ice moon sword energy swept towards Ling Han. Ling Han was already prepared to receive the attack. With a heavy stomp of his right leg, the soil beneath his feet immediately floated up. Fusing with his profound qi, it formed a boulder shield wall in front of him. Imperial Boulder, Ling Han shouted. The boulder shield wall was struck by the ice moon sword qi, but it didn't budge at all. Imperial Boulder was a very popular defensive martial skill among the inner disciples of the Jintian clan. It was a high-grade martial skill, and it was quite difficult to cultivate. However, once it reached the large success stage, it could condense a boulder shield wall with a wave of its hand. Its defensive ability was extremely strong. Ling Han had obviously cultivated the Imperial Boulder martial skill to the large success stage. Ice Moon Spirit Movement. However, Feng Yao didn't care about Ling Han's boulder shield wall at all. Her figure flashed, and she actually cultivated the peak state of the Ice Moon sword art, an acceleration movement technique derived from it. Any martial skill would undergo a qualitative change when cultivated to the peak realm. The Ice Moon sword art was the same. At the large success stage, one could use the Ice Moon sword qi. At the peak realm, one could condense the Ice Moon qi, allowing one's agility and speed to greatly increase. Feng Yao stepped on the shattered ice wind and instantly bypassed the boulder shield wall, wanting to chase after Long Yu. Your opponent is me. Ling Han laughed loudly. With a wave of his hand, the boulder shield wall transformed into a series of earth fists that chased after Feng Yao at an extremely fast speed. It was also the royal boulder that had been cultivated to the peak. Facing these earth fists, Feng Yao could not move forward at all. She frowned and quickly turned around to deal with them. The two of them engaged in an intense battle. The Thousand Thread Sect's disciple, who was hiding nearby, wanted to seize the opportunity to catch up to Long Yu. However, he was similarly blocked by Ling Han's earth fist, and the ancient tree he was hiding in was smashed into pieces. Ling Han had actually managed to block the pursuit of Feng Yao and the experts of the Thousand Thread Sect by himself. Long Yu executed Flash Wind Step and activated the Blizzard Battle Boots. In just the time it took to drink a cup of tea, he had already covered a distance of more than 10 li. The dense spiritual energy emitted by the high-grade ancient ginseng was far away from the area where Ling Han and the others were. The direction in which Long Yu was running was naturally towards a remote area, and he kept changing his route. If one followed the direction that he had started running in, they would definitely not be able to catch up to him. It's about time. I'll directly consume the high-grade ancient ginseng. Although Long Yu was temporarily safe, he did not dare to be careless. He chose an ancient tree that was tall enough and climbed to the top in a few steps. This way, even if someone were to approach, he would be the first to detect it. The high-grade ancient ginseng emitted an intoxicating dense spiritual energy. If it was completely absorbed by a martial cultivator, it would have an extremely strong effect on the advancement of one's cultivation. Dragon Seal of the 9 Underworlds. Long Yu activated the Dragon Seal of the 9 Underworlds and quickly absorbed the spiritual energy from the high-grade ancient ginseng. At this moment, Long Yu could not help but think that if there was a way to conceal the spiritual energy from the high-grade ancient ginseng, then he would be much more at ease when absorbing it. Just as he was thinking about this, a black shadow flashed past the Dragon Seal of the 9 Underworlds. Immediately after, he saw that the surface of the high-grade ancient ginseng was actually covered with some black lines, which were exactly the same as the Dragon Seal of the 9 Underworlds. And the spiritual energy that was originally emitted to a distance of 10 miles suddenly disappeared without a trace. This situation caused Long Yu to be stunned for a moment, and then pleasantly surprised. The dragon seal of the 9 underworlds can actually shield the spiritual energy emitted by treasures. It's so heaven-defying. Why didn't I know earlier? This time, Long Yu was completely safe. Even if someone came nearby, they would absolutely not be able to guess that he would hide at the top of the tree and absorb the high-grade ancient ginseng. High-grade ancient ginseng was extremely precious. In the entire ancient ginseng forest, only 2 or 3 appeared every year. And now, one of them was in the hands of Long Yu. Ling Han, I owe you a favor. Long Yu thought in his heart and no longer hesitated. He crushed the high-grade ancient ginseng and swallowed the spiritual energy in one breath. As soon as the rich spiritual energy entered his stomach, Long Yu immediately felt the profound energy in his body surge. The degree was much stronger than when he consumed the low-grade and middle-grade ancient ginseng. 7th level of the martial Tao. It seems that there is no problem. I just don't know if I will encounter a bottleneck. Long Yu thought in his heart and began to use the rich spiritual energy in the high-grade ancient ginseng to break through to the next level. At the 7th level of the martial Tao, one could release profound energy. The key was to open the most critical meridian of the body, the heaven meridian. Once the heaven meridian was opened, one could control the meridians of the body. Whether it was opened or closed, it would be more than 10 times more flexible than before. Not only that, the heaven meridian would play an even more important role in the future martial Tao. For every martial cultivator, the importance of the heaven meridian was no less than the Dantian. Heaven meridian, open for me. Long Yu shouted in his heart, and all the profound energy in his body surged towards the source of the heaven meridian. He attacked the heaven meridian again and again, vowing to open it and step into the 7th level of the martial Tao. He had absorbed 30% of the high-grade ancient ginseng's spiritual energy, making him feel that the 7th level of the martial Tao was close at hand. However, the heaven meridian in his body had never been able to be opened, leaving an obstacle between him and the 7th level of the martial Tao. 9 Nether Dragon Seal break. The 9 Nether Dragon Seal stored 70% of the high-grade ancient ginseng's spiritual energy was continuously absorbed by Long Yu, forming waves after waves of energy that attacked the heaven meridian. Dong, dong, dong. Long Yu's heart beat faster and faster with the rhythm of the profound energy attacking the heaven meridian. Finally, when the high-grade ancient ginseng only had 30% of its spiritual energy left, the heaven meridian that was originally blocked was completely opened under the continuous impact of the profound energy. Buzz. Long Yu felt as if a light had burst through his head, making him feel as if he had established a vague connection with the world. The heaven meridian was the meridian that connected heaven and earth. Only by relying on the heaven meridian could one sense the laws of heaven and earth. And this step Long Yu firmly took. The heaven-suppressing concept seems to be on the verge of a breakthrough. Could it be because the heaven meridian is opened that my ability to sense the laws of heaven and earth has increased? Long Yu thought to himself, no wonder those who could comprehend the concept of cultivation methods were already core disciples. That was because as the martial Tao realm increased, the heaven meridian in the body was opened, and the martial cultivator's comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth would rise to another level. Just like now, when Long Yu's heaven meridian was opened, the heaven-suppressing concept he had previously comprehended began to stir, as if it was about to break through to the heaven-suppressing charm. Just a little bit more, and I'll be able to comprehend the heaven-suppressing charm and make the laws of heaven and earth stronger. Long Yu's eyes flashed as he jumped down from the top of the ancient tree and landed heavily on the ground. After breaking through to the 7th level of the martial Tao, the most direct change was the increase in his body strength. His basic strength had increased from 32,000 Jin at the 6th level of the martial Tao to the current 64,000 Jin, coupled with the demon vanquishing tyrant body and the 9 Nether Dragon Seal. Long Yu's punch had the strength of 80 to 90,000 Jin. Of course, Long Yu, who was at the 7th level of the martial Dao, wasn't very powerful. Ever since he awakened the memories of the 9 Nether Dragon Seal, Long Yu knew that stepping into the 8th level of the martial Dao was his true transformation. Ordinary experts at the 8th level of the martial Dao have a strength of 120,000 Jin. If I were to use the Wandering Soul Glove, I would be able to unleash such a powerful attack. However, experts at the 8th level of the martial Dao must have some special means of strength, so they won't be defeated so easily, Long Yu thought to himself. His current strength could contend against an expert at the 8th level of the martial Dao, but if he really met one, he might not be their match. However, if he could comprehend the heaven-suppressing charm to a deeper level, then Long Yu would be much more confident. The concept that contains the laws of heaven and earth isn't something that can be comprehended just because I want to. I should go see how Ling Han is doing first. Long Yu calculated the time. From the time that Ling Han had jumped out to stop the pursuers for him, it had already been about 4 hours. With such a long time, he didn't know how Ling Han was doing. He executed the wind flash step at its peak and returned the way he came. Soon, he returned to the pool where the high-grade ancient ginseng grew. Long Yu ran into the forest, but he didn't sense any signs of fighting. Long Yu searched carefully and found 3 corpses hidden in the bushes. They were all left behind by the Thousand Thread Sect's disciples. It seems like senior brother Ling Han is fine, but Feng Yao seems to be fine too, Long Yu thought to himself. Since he couldn't find them, he didn't have to worry about it for the time being. It wouldn't be easy for Feng Yao to kill Ling Han alone. Just as Long Yu was about to get up and leave, he suddenly heard the sound of a fierce battle coming from the direction of the pool. They fought back. Long Yu's expression changed slightly. He took a step forward and hid in the dark bushes, looking in the direction of the pool. What he saw wasn't Feng Yao, Ling Han, or the others, but the strongest disciple of the Jintian clan, Tan Jian, and 2 other experts in the 8th stage of the martial path. Tan Jian and 2 experts in the 8th stage of the martial path from the Frost sect. Long Yu's eyes lit up. He didn't expect the 3 of them to actually fight. The man and woman in the 8th stage of the martial path were thin and weak, but with a wave of their hands, they released over 100,000 kilograms of strength, forcing Tan Jian back step by step. As for Tan Jian, he seemed to have some misgivings. He retreated step by step with a fierce expression on his face. High-grade ancient ginseng. It's a high-grade ancient ginseng. Long Yu sensed the aura coming from Tan Jian's body and immediately recognized it as the aura of a high-grade ancient ginseng. However, it was obvious that the high-grade ancient ginseng had been absorbed by Tan Jian. No wonder those 2 were chasing after Tan Jian. This guy actually got a high-grade ancient ginseng. A cold light flashed in Long Yu's eyes. Ever since he entered the Heaven Suppression Canyon, Tan Jian had been looking for trouble. If it wasn't for his strength, he would have been crippled or even killed. Now that there was a chance to ambush Tan Jian, Long Yu naturally wouldn't let it go. Chapter 41. On the shore of the lake, Tan Jian and the skinny man and the skinny woman from the ice sect were fighting fiercely. They didn't notice that there was a tiger hiding in the bushes nearby, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Tan Jian, you should know the consequences of stealing the high-grade ginseng. The skinny man sneered, his voice hoarse. Ha ha ha. Tan Jian laughed maniacally as he blocked the attacks of the 2. Consequences? What consequences? What do you think you can do to me with just the 2 of you? Don't be too arrogant. You may be in the 8th rank of the martial path, but so are we, the skinny woman said coldly. 2 against 1. You'll lose for sure. She was exerting psychological pressure on Tan Jian so that he wouldn't be able to use his full strength in the battle. However, Tan Jian's mind was firm, so he wouldn't be affected so easily. He snorted, Hua Qing, Hua Yun, do you really think that I, Tan Jian, will be afraid of you after absorbing the high-grade ginseng? Tan Jian stomped his foot, and Xian Qi merged into ground. A layer of soil was peeled off and formed a rock shield wall in front of him. High-grade martial skill, rock defense. The rock shield wall instantly blocked Hua Yun and Hua Qing's Xianqi attacks. Even though the two of them were working together, they couldn't shake the rock shield wall at all. In the ice school, only core disciples can practice transcendent martial skills. Although the two of you are in the 8th rank of the martial path, you're not core disciples. Tan Jian controlled the rock defense and said calmly, "I'd like to see how you can break through my rock defense." Oomph. The skinny man, Hua Qing, let out a hoarse snort when he saw this. He stepped forward and shook his arms. The profound qi in his body condensed into 3 frost dragon profound qi and roared as they attacked Tan Jian. Ice Dragon Break, an advanced martial skill at the greater mastery level. The 3 ice dragons attacked from 3 different directions. Tan Jian didn't panic. He waved his hand, and the rock defense in front of him quickly expanded until it enveloped the 3 ice dragons. Boom, boom, boom. The ice dragons bombarded the rock defense, but it didn't cause any damage. The rock defense was terrifying, but it didn't move at all. However, the skinny woman, Hua Yun, laughed with disdain. Although this monolith shield wall's defense is strong, its speed is too slow. Watch me pluck flowers and flying leaves. Plucking flowers and flying leaves. Hua Yun's hands danced to the air. Then, Xianqi gathered at her fingertips, forming countless flowers and leaves. Each leaf was as sharp as a blade. What martial skill is this? Seeing this, Tan Jian's expression turned solemn. He had also looked through the bamboo slip that Elder Yu had given him, but there were no records of this martial skill. Could it be the martial skill of Hua Qing and Hua Yun's clans? In the next moment, the flowers and leaves in Hua Yunsu's hands danced in the air like flying daggers and flew toward Tan Jian. Flower-plucking flying leaf was a high-grade offensive martial skill. Not only did it possess shocking might, most importantly, it condensed Xianqi into flower leaves that were extremely swift and pervasive. It was extremely suitable to deal with a defensive martial skill like the boulder defense. The flying flowers and leaves covered Tan Jian's entire body. Although the monolith shield wall's defense was strong, it was useless at this moment. The flying flowers and leaves were extremely fast and cunning. In the blink of an eye, they changed their direction and went around the monolith shield wall to arrive in front of Tan Jian. Dang, 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 dang. A series of metal, clanging noises were heard. The flying flowers and leaves hit Tan Jian's body and made clanking noises. Is that a defensive armor? Hua Yun's expression changed slightly. She could see that Tan Jian was wearing a defensive armor. Tan Jian leaped into the air, and with a shake of his body, he blocked all the flying flowers and leaves. He was still unharmed. Tan Jian, he's indeed Tan Jian. Long Yu could not help but think that if he were to face Tan Jian now, he would not be able to break through Tan Jian's defense no matter what. This guy had mastered the boulder defense martial skill to the peak. In addition, he was wearing a defensive armor that was as hard as a tortoise's shell. How is it? Tan Jian stood steadily and looked at Hua Qing and Hua Yun mockingly. Are you powerless? Are you desperate? Next, it's my turn. Tan Jian's sturdy body was like a boulder as he stomped heavily on the ground. He stretched out his right hand, and a black fog formed into a ghostly claw. It was aimed at Hua Yun. It's the soul-capturing palm. Be careful. Hua Qing warned in a hoarse voice. He did not stop and finally took out his combat weapon. It was a sharp longsword. The blade of the sword shone with silver light. Under the cover of Hua Qing's Xianqi, the blade was covered with a layer of ice and snow, turning the area around it into a biting cold winter. Kill! While Tan Jian was attacking Hua Yun with the soul-capturing palm, Hua Qing used his sword skills and attacked Tan Jian. Tan Jian's ghostly claw appeared in front of Hua Yun in an instant. Hua Yun could not react in time and was grabbed by the claw. Instantly, he could not move as if his soul had been taken away. Come! Tan Jian shouted and activated his Xianqi. The soul-capturing palm, which had been cultivated to the peak, instantly lifted Hua Yun's slender body up. "If you want to kill me, then kill me." Tan Jian looked at Hua Qing, who was attacking him with a sword. He laughed and waved his right hand. The soul-capturing palm grabbed Hua Yun and slammed into Hua Qing. Hua Qing paused for a moment. Then he increased his speed and pierced through Hua Yun's slender body with his sword. Tan Jian's smile froze on his face. What was going on? Was Hua Qing sick? How could he kill his own sister? But very quickly, Tan Jian found out that was not the case. Hua Yun's slender body was pierced by the sword Qi, but there was not a single drop of blood. Then, her entire body turned into flying petals and scattered in the air. That was just a fake body of Hua Yun. In the next moment, Hua Qing held his sword in front of him. Ice and snow swirled in the air, and the sword Qi was dense. Hua Yun turned into flying petals and leaves and appeared behind Tan Jian in a flash. The petals and leaves gathered into a torrent and rushed towards Tan Jian. Being pincered, Tan Jian's eyes flashed fiercely. He finally switched from defense to offense. Rock defense, earth fist. The rock defense wall instantly turned into hundreds of earth fists and attacked the two people in front and behind. Hua Qing's footsteps were light as he displayed his movement technique. He barely dodged one earth fist after another. The cold light from his long sword pierced towards Tan Jian's face. Hua Yun's body turned into flying petals and leaves. His speed was even more terrifying. With a flash, he dodged all the earth fists and got closer to Tan Jian. Collapsing mountain fist. It was a simple punch. Although it was only a middle-rank martial technique, when Hua Yun used it, its power was not any weaker than other high-rank martial techniques. Perfect rank martial technique. Tan Jian's heart skipped a beat as he felt the aura of a perfect rank martial technique coming from behind him. He had to use all his strength to defend himself. Even if it was a middle-rank martial technique, once it was trained to perfect rank, its power would be terrifying. Beginner, small success, large success, peak, perfect rank. The cultivation of a martial technique was done one level after another. Every level that was comprehended would result in a completely different level of power. The perfect rank collapsing mountain fist made Tan Jian have to take it seriously. That was because it could penetrate his armor and hurt him directly. When the collapsing mountain fist was trained to perfect rank, it could hit a bull through a mountain, and its power would increase tremendously. Although Hua Yun was skinny and weak, the collapsing mountain fist was extremely ferocious. He threw a punch at Tan Jian's back. In front of Tan Jian, the cold light from the sword was already in front of him. Being attacked from the front and the back, the situation was extremely dangerous. Rock defense explode. Tan Jian gritted his teeth and activated his Xian Qi. The boulder that had turned into an earth fist turned around and instantly exploded towards Hua Qing and Hua Yun. At that moment, a loud explosion was heard. Dust flew everywhere, and it was a complete mess. The sound of the cold sword, the collapsing mountain fist, and the explosion of the rock were all mixed together. Long you could not see what was happening. Suddenly, bang! Two thin silhouettes were sent flying out of the arena. One fell into the pool and caused a splash, whereas the other fell heavily onto the ground, causing a cloud of dust to fly up into the air. They were in an extremely sorry state. After the smoke and dust dispersed, Long you finally saw Tan Jian coughing up blood and half kneeling on the ground. His clothes had already been torn to shreds, and even the cyan armor he was wearing had several holes in it. It seemed that the battle weapon had been destroyed. Looking at the ground beside him, Hua Yun's skinny body was lying on the ground. Her gray robe was also in tatters, revealing her alluring snow-white skin. On the shore of the pond, Hua Qing climbed up with difficulty. It seemed that his injuries were more serious than Hua Yun's. As expected, both sides are injured. Long Yu revealed a smile. In such a situation, these three experts at the 8th stage of the martial Dao could no longer be considered a threat. His only opponent left was Princess Qianxi, Yu Qianing. Long Yu stood up and prepared to leave quietly. Although he really wanted to kill all three of them in front of him, even if they were seriously injured, they were still experts in the 8th stage of the martial path. They still had a certain amount of combat power. If Tan Jian, Hua Qing, and Hua Yun joined hands, even if Long Yu could kill them all, he would still be heavily injured. There was no need for that. However, when Long Yu turned around to leave, he suddenly felt his feet being bound by a powerful force. Disciples of the Thousand Thread Sect. Long Yu squinted his eyes and looked down. Indeed, he saw 2 shadow hands wrapping around his feet. The shadows of the surrounding ancient trees were also moving towards him. In the entire Thousand Thread Sect, other than Yu Qianning, I'm not afraid of anyone. A cold light flashed in Long Yu's eyes. He did not want to waste too much time here. After all, there was no ancient ginseng here. But since someone wanted to sneak attack him, then he couldn't be blamed. Demon subduing body. Long Yu cultivated a body-strengthening martial skill, so his defense was extremely strong. His opponent's shadow hands could do nothing to him. Heaven-suppressing intent condensed. Long Yu released the heaven-suppressing intent. After opening his heavenly meridian, his comprehension of the intent was even stronger. In an instant, Long Yu found the hiding place of the Thousand Thread Sect's disciple. At the top of the ancient tree to his left, a Thousand Thread Sect disciple was suppressed by Long Yu's intent. Long Yu keenly sensed it. Wind flash step, 3 steps in a breath. A cold light flashed in Long Yu's eyes. In an instant, only an afterimage was left on the spot. As for his body, he crossed a height of 30 meters and appeared behind the Thousand Thread Sect disciple. Die! Long Yu activated the 9 Nether Dragon seal. Wearing the Wandering Soul Glove, he gathered more than 50,000 kilograms of strength and punched the disciple's back. Bang! The black-clothed Thousand Thread Sect disciple of the 7th rank of the martial path was smashed to death by this punch. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell down the tree, motionless in the thicket. When Long Yu stepped into the 7th stage of the martial path, ordinary 7th stage martial path cultivators were like chickens in front of him. They couldn't withstand a single blow. However, the commotion attracted the attention of the 3 people at the edge of the pool. Chapter 42. Hua Qing, Hua Yun, and Tan Jian saw Long Yu standing at the top of the ancient tree. It's that trash. Even though Tan Jian was injured, his eyes were filled with viciousness. He remembered the Jintian clan. Ten Yu had her leg broken by Long Yu, and Fong Kong, who was severely injured by Long Yu. No matter who it was, he would not let Long Yu go. Hua Yun, on the other hand, was ashamed and angry when she saw Long Yu. Her clothes were ragged, and her snow-white skin was faintly discernible. How dare this brat peek at her? You've seen my body, so you must die. Hua Yun's face was filled with viciousness. Whether it was Tan Jian or Long Yu, she would not let them live. Brother, look after Tan Jian. I'm going to kill that brat first. Hua Yun said coldly. Suddenly, her body turned into petals and leaves. As if being blown by a gust of wind, she flew towards Long Yu. Get out of my way. That brat's life is mine. Tan Jian roared and stomped his feet on the ground. Instantly, a boulder shield wall appeared once again. Following that, it transformed into hundreds of earth fists that shot towards Long Yu. Long Yu stood at the top of the ancient tree, his heart calm. Originally, he wanted to leave quietly to save time and see if he could find more ginseng. But now, since the other party had no intention of letting him go, he would not retreat. Let me see how strong an 8th stage martial path cultivator is. Long Yu's eyes flashed as he activated his Blizzard War boots. He jumped down from the top of the ancient tree and took the initiative to meet the flying petals and leaves of Hua Yun, as well as the hundreds of earth fists controlled by Tan Jian. Demon subduing Vajra shield. Long Yu gathered his Xian Qi on the surface of his body. Suddenly, a faint golden light appeared, making him impregnable. Clang! Clang! The flying petals and leaves were like blades, cutting at Long Yu's body, but only the sound of metal colliding could be heard. They couldn't hurt him at all. Hundreds of earth fists exploded on his body, but they couldn't break through the layer of faint golden light. The explosive power was completely blocked. With a loud thud, Long Yu landed firmly on the edge of the pool, stirring up a cloud of dust. Tan Jian was 50 feet away from him. Hua Qing was 100 feet away from him. Hua Yun, on the other hand, had transformed into a flower leaf and landed in another direction after using the flower-plucking flying leaf technique. 3 experts at the 8th stage of the martial Dao surrounded Long Yu. "You're courting death." Tan Jian rose to his feet with a mocking expression on his face. He calmly said to Hua Qing and Hua Yun, "You too. This kid has a grudge against me. Why don't we deal with him first, then deal with the grudge between us?" "I have no objections," Hua Yun said viciously. Her skinny body stood not far away. Her gray clothes fluttered in the wind, and her snow-white body was faintly visible. "Then let's kill him first," Hua Qing said coldly as he stood up from the edge of the pool with a long sword covered in ice in his hand. The 3 of them had suffered heavy injuries from their fight. Now, a kid actually wanted to take advantage of them. Did he think that their cultivation of the 8th stage of the martial path was just a joke? The 3 of them discussed as if there was no one else around them. They didn't put Long Yu in their eyes at all. However, since they were already injured, they wanted to join forces to kill Long Yu first. They could also see that Long Yu easily withstood the flower-plucking flying leaf technique and the boulder earth fist. His strength was much stronger than the average 7th stage of the martial path. If they didn't join forces, it wouldn't be so easy to deal with Long Yu. "Trash! The 3 of us at the 8th stage of the martial path joined forces to deal with you. Even if you die, you should feel honored." Tan Jian sneered as he moved to prevent Long Yu from escaping. "You're so sure that I'll be the one to die?" Long Yu said indifferently. As soon as these words came out, the 3 experts immediately laughed in disdain. "Uh-huh. Who do you think you are?" Tan Jian laughed disdainfully. "Even if it's just me, you won't be able to live. Now, I just don't want to go through so much trouble. In a battle between experts, a thing like you will only die if you interfere." Hua Qing walked over with his sword in hand. He had a proud expression. Just as Tan Jian said, even if it was just him, Hua Qing could still kill Long Yu with his sword. Not to mention, there are 3 of them joining forces. "Stop talking nonsense. Attack," Hua Yin said viciously. He took a step forward and activated his profound qi. In the next moment, he was about to transform into the flower-plucking flying leaf technique. However, at this moment, a loud roar came from the forest in the distance. "Stop!" Following this loud roar, a young man in a white shirt walked over quickly. His handsome face was filled with anxiety. It was actually Ling Han. "Senior brother?" When Long Yu saw Ling Han, he felt as if a huge weight had been lifted from his heart. Fortunately, this senior brother was fine. But then, an ice moon sword Qi suddenly shot out from the thicket and attacked behind Ling Han. "Why are you interfering in someone else's battle?" Feng Yao's clear and mocking voice came from the thicket. Immediately after, she stepped on the wind of shattered ice, and with a flash of her light green dress, she was already in front of Ling Han, blocking his way. The Bingtong ancient sword was placed horizontally in front of Ling Han. It was cold and threatening. "The battle between us is not over yet. You'd better focus." Feng Yao activated her Xin Shi, and a layer of ice and snow appeared on the blade of the 3rd copper ancient sword. Another flash of ice moon sword Qi condensed and attacked Ling Han. Seeing this, Ling Han could not help Long Yu anymore. He could only be forced to take a few steps back by the sword Qi. "Junior brother, leave quickly," Ling Han hurriedly reminded him. "Senior brother, you don't have to worry about me. Just hold Feng Yao back for me." Long Yu said, "Don't worry. With me here, she definitely won't be able to pass." As Ling Han spoke, he activated his profound qi and continued to use the Imperial Boulder martial skill, easily blocking Feng Yao's Ice Moon Sword Qi. The corners of Feng Yao's mouth curled up slightly. That's right. At this moment, Ling Han was being held back by her, and Long Yu was surrounded by Tan Jian, Hua Qing, and Hua Yu. He was dead for sure. To her, Long Yu had to die. Otherwise, her father, Feng Chang'e, would not give up taking care of him and even wanted to betroth her to him. She didn't want to go against her father's wishes, but she also didn't want to see Long Yu. The only way was to let Long Yu die. Now, she was blocking Ling Han and not letting Ling Han help. Under the siege of 3 experts at the 8th stage of the martial Dao, Long Yu would definitely die. At this moment, Ling Han was burning with anxiety. However, with Feng Yao blocking him, he couldn't break through to help Long Yu. He could only follow Long Yu's instructions and firmly hold Feng Yao back. The two of them restrained each other, and no one could interfere. At the edge of the pool, the battle began at almost the same time. Hua Yin was the first to make a move. He transformed into flying flowers and leaves and instantly arrived beside Long Yu. He clenched his fist and punched. Mountain Collapsing Fist. The perfected Mountain Collapsing Fist could hit a bull through a mountain. Its power was boundless. Long Yu didn't dare to take it head-on. He activated his blizzard boots and used Wind Flash Step to quickly retreat to the side. However, Hua Yun was even faster than him and followed closely behind, plucking flowers and flying leaves. The speed of this martial technique was simply too fast. Even the current Long Yu could not dodge it. The fist landed heavily on Long Yu's shoulder. A terrifying destructive force passed through his shoulder and shook his body. Demon subduing Vajra barrier. A faint golden light appeared on the surface of Long Yu's body, barely withstanding 50% of the fist's power. However, the remaining 50% directly penetrated into his body. The effects of cultivating the demon, subduing tyrannical body finally appeared. The fist energy penetrated deep into Long Yu's body, but in the end, it only caused his blood to churn and his internal organs to suffer a little shock before being dissolved by the demon, subduing tyrannical body. Even the perfected Mountain Collapsing Fist couldn't cause any damage to Long Yu. However, the direction in which Long Yu retreated was blocked by Hua Qing. A sword covered in ice flashed as it slashed horizontally at his neck. The icy energy enveloped Long Yu, causing his body to freeze and his speed to slow down by half a beat. Long Yu lowered his head, and the icy sword slashed past his head, slicing off a few strands of his hair and turning them into silver strands. Soul capturing palm. Tan Jian made a move, and a ghostly hand emitting black fog swept over. Long Yu's center of gravity wasn't stable, so he couldn't dodge it at all. He could only use the peak realm of Wind Flashing Step, leaving an afterimage where he was standing, and his body flashed behind Tan Jian. Eat my fist. While Tan Jian was still using the soul-capturing palm, Long Yu activated the 9 Underworld's Dragon Seal and heavily punched Tan Jian's back. However, even though the combat soldier armor inside Tan Jian's body had been shattered by the explosion, its defensive ability was still extraordinary. Long Yu's full-force punch didn't even make Tan Jian move half a step. What a turtle! Long Yu cursed in his heart. At this moment, Hua Yun and Hua Qing's attacks arrived in the blink of an eye. The flying flowers and leaves attacked from the left, and the icy sword chi appeared on the right. Heaven-suppressing concept release. With a thought, Long Yu immediately released the heaven-suppressing concept, and in an instant, it enveloped an area of 30 meters around him. The suppressive aura caused Tan Jian, Hua Yu, and Hua Qing's movements to stagnate. Each of their faces revealed a look of surprise. This kid actually comprehended the concept of the heaven-suppressing art so early. His talent was really not bad. However, against experts in the 8th stage of the martial Dao. So what if he comprehended the concept? At most, the heaven-suppressing concept could only weaken their strength and speed by less than 30%. Their strength was still stronger than Long Yu's, not to mention that they were fighting 3 against 1. Demon subduing Vajra barrier. Long Yu condensed his Xian Qi on the surface of his body, and a faint golden light flashed once again, barely blocking Hua Yun and Hua Qing's attacks. Immediately after, Tan Jian turned around and stomped his foot. The rock shield wall appeared once again, transforming into hundreds of earth fists that bombarded Long Yu like raindrops. I've consumed too much Xinqi. I can no longer use the demon's subduing Vajra barrier. Long Yu thought to himself as he calmly faced Tan Jian's hundreds of earth fists. His body transformed into a gentle breeze as he dodged to the side like a gust of wind. However, the hundreds of earth fists followed closely behind like a shadow. However, there are some things that are easier to break through in battle. At this moment, Long Yu finally felt that the connection between the heavenly meridian in his body and the world had become even closer. The trace of heaven's suppressing concept that he had comprehended had finally undergone a qualitative change and had sublimated into a divine charm. Cultivating the heaven-suppressing art allowed one to suppress the laws of heaven and earth within one's body. However, one could only borrow it after comprehending it. At this moment, Long Yu finally comprehended the divine charm of suppression and released it without hesitation. The heaven-suppressing divine charm descended on the scene, enveloping the three 8th-stage martial Dao experts, causing the circulation of their Xianqi to be greatly hindered. Whether it was their strength or speed, they were all suppressed by half. Above the concept and divine charm is the power of heaven and earth and the domain. If I can finally form a domain, I will be the ruler within the domain. Long Yu's eyes flickered. However, just comprehending the divine charm is enough to deal with these three 8th-stage martial Dao experts. Under the suppression of the heaven-suppressing divine charm that Long Yu had comprehended, Tan Jian's hundreds of earth fists dropped sharply and were easily dodged by Long Yu. Hua Yun and Hua Qing's movements slowed down, and they could no longer catch up to Long Yu. Chapter 43. When the heaven-suppressing charm descended, the arena became Long Yu's stage. Taking advantage of Hua Qing's slow speed, Long Yu activated his blizzard boots and flash wind step, circling to Hua Qing's back. Kill! Long Yu roared and punched out. A black mist appeared from the wandering soul's glove. Dodge! Hua Qing felt the punch coming from behind him and wanted to dodge. However, under the suppression of the heaven-suppressing charm, he felt like he was moving through a swamp. His movements became extremely slow. In the next moment, Long Yu's fist landed on Hua Qing's spine. A terrifying force of over 100,000 kilograms exploded, sending Hua Qing flying. The long sword covered in ice and snow fell to the ground with a clang. Without the support of Hua Qing's profound qi, the ice and snow on the sword quickly dissipated, leaving only a silver sword. Good sword. Long Yu picked up the long sword and faintly smiled. This long sword had undoubtedly alleviated the pressure he was currently under. If he didn't have such a sharp weapon, he really didn't know what to do with the tortoise-like Tan Jian. Flying leaf plucking. When Hua Yun saw his elder brother being sent flying, he was both startled and enraged. He transformed into flying petals and leaves, continuing to advance towards Long Yu. Tens of thousands of petals were like blades, sweeping towards Long Yu. However, even if it was the flying leaf plucking, it became extremely slow under the heaven-suppressing charm. Long Yu casually waved the sword in his hand and cut all the flying leaves into pieces. He then used flash wind step and turned into a light breeze, charging toward Hua Yun. Pooh! The sword accurately pierced Hua Yun's throat. Her eyes widened in disbelief. How is this possible? You're clearly only in the 7th rank of the martial path. I already said that I won't be the one to die. Long Yu said calmly and pulled out his sword. Hua Yun's thin body fell to the ground. Her heart stopped and her breathing stopped. Xiao Yun, Hua Qing, who was sent flying by Long Yu's punch, cried out in pain when he saw this. His eyes flickered with hatred as he glared at Long Yu. I must kill you. Unfortunately, you won't have a chance. Long Yu harumphed softly. In a flash, he turned into a breeze and appeared behind Hua Qing, stabbing forward with his sword. Puff! Hua Qing didn't even have the time to use a defensive martial skill before his abdomen was pierced by the sword. His dantian was shattered by the profound qi that Long Yu had attached to the sword. Hua Qing fell face up to the ground. In an instant, only Tan Jian was left in the field. The heaven-suppressing divine charm descended, instantly killing the enemy. Long Yu looked at Tan Jian and saw a look of shock and fear in Tan Jian's eyes. A mere Long Yu, who used to be a piece of trash, had actually become so frightening. He had even comprehended the second level of his concept. Such a frightening talent was simply unimaginable to Tan Jian. Long Yu, stop. We're all from the Jintian clan. There's no need to fight to the death. Tan Jian stomped his feet, and the rock shield wall appeared. He looked at Long Yu calmly and said, "Now, you're calling me by my name. Didn't you call me trash before?" Long Yu smiled disdainfully. In the face of a life-threatening situation, everything could be abandoned. For example, Tan Jian had abandoned his arrogance and wanted to shake hands with Long Yu. However, how could Long Yu agree? If he didn't take this opportunity to get rid of this tortoise, he would be in big trouble the next time they met. Long Yu would never leave any trouble for himself. "You must die." Long Yu pointed his sword at Tan Jian with an indifferent expression. Tan Jian's heart skipped a beat. Looking at the indifference in Long Yu's eyes, he had a bad premonition. Ling Han and Feng Yao, who were not far away, naturally saw the situation. How is this possible? This trash. Feng Yao gritted her teeth. She never expected that Long Yu would be able to face the encirclement of 3 experts at the 8th level of the martial Dao and even kill 2 of them. It even made Tan Jian, who had always been incomparably arrogant, lower his stance. Could it be that these 3 experts at the 8th level of the martial Dao had fought too hard and their strength had been severely damaged? Otherwise, even if Long Yu stepped into the 7th level of the martial Dao, it would still be impossible for him to defeat 3 experts at the 8th level of the martial Dao. This won't do. If I don't take this opportunity to get rid of this brat, I'm afraid there will be a lot of trouble in the future. A fierce glint flashed in Feng Yao's eyes. However, just as she moved, Ling Han caught up to her. "Haha, junior sister Feng Yao, your opponent is me." Ling Han stood in front of Feng Yao and laughed out loud. He casually threw out a punch and stopped Feng Yao in her tracks. Ling Han never expected that his junior brother, Long Yu, would be so powerful. It seemed that giving him the high-grade ancient ginseng was the right choice. Although the current Long Yu was only at the 7th level of the martial Dao, he had killed 2 experts at the 8th level of the martial Dao. "Who's your junior sister?" When Feng Yao was stopped by Ling Han, she immediately felt a sense of powerlessness. Although she wasn't weak, there was nothing she could do against Ling Han. The 2 of them were of equal strength. It was not a short period of time to determine the victor. No matter who it was impossible for them to escape the entanglement of the other party. At the beginning, Feng Yao had stopped Ling Han from helping Long Yu. But now, Ling Han had stopped Feng Yao from killing Long Yu. Neither of them could affect the battle situation on Long Yu's side. Step by step, Long Yu walked towards Tan Jian. Tan Jian condensed his Xian Qi and released the rock shield wall. However, he felt that the Xian Qi in his body had been greatly consumed, and he could not hold on for much longer. He had snatched the high-grade ancient ginseng and was chased by Hua Yun and Hua Qing. Along the way, he had risked his life to swallow the high-grade ancient ginseng. He had not rested at all along the way. Now that he was at the end of the road, his heart was filled with hatred. Looking at Long Yu walking towards him step by step, Tan Jian's mind raced. He wasn't someone who couldn't bear to let go. In the face of his life, even if it was dignity and face, what was the point of temporarily putting it down? Long Yu, it was her fault that my sister Tan Yu was disrespectful to you. When we return, I will definitely discipline her strictly. Tan Jian said in a deep voice, "Since we are from the same sect, how about you put down the sword in your hand?" When he said this, Tan Jian was extremely unwilling. However, now that his Xian Qi was exhausted, he could only endure. The meaning of this sentence was very clear. Tan Jian was actually begging for mercy from Long Yu. Ling Han, who was standing aside, did not expect that Long Yu could force the number one inner disciple of the Jintian clan to such an extent. However, at this time, Ling Han was a little worried. In the face of Tan Jian's humble attitude, would Long Yu let him go just like that? Ling Han did not say anything. He wanted to see what kind of person Long Yu was. If you want me to put down the sword in my hand, I can. However, there is a condition. Long Yu smiled faintly and said casually, "What condition?" Tan Jian asked subconsciously. "It's very simple." Long Yu said these three words. Then, with a long sword in hand, he turned into a light breeze and stepped behind Tan Jian in a flash. Xianqi was attached to the long sword. Like a flash of light, the sword pierced through Tan Jian's damaged armor. Tan Jian's attention was still focused on listening to Long Yu's condition. How could he expect that Long Yu would directly attack? In the next moment, the long sword was attached with Xianqi and easily pierced through Tan Jian's chest. "You!" Tan Jian still wanted to say something, but his eyes widened and he could not say a word. Following that, Long Yu raised his leg and kicked Tan Jian to the ground, causing a cloud of dust to fly up. This difficult-to-deal-with tortoise finally died under Long Yu's sword. Even when you are begging for mercy, your eyes are still filled with unwillingness and hatred. Do you really think that I would be stupid enough to spare your life and cause trouble for myself? Long Yu sneered and pulled out the long sword from Tan Jian's back. This silver long sword was a low-rank combat weapon. Unfortunately, Long Yu did not practice swordsmanship, so he could not use much of its power. He could only use its sharpness to kill people. He raised his head and saw that Ling Han's expression was one of joy as he ran towards him. As for Feng Yao, after Tan Jian had been stabbed to death by Long Yu's sword, she knew that she was definitely not a match for Long Yu and Ling Han by herself. Thus, she decisively used a movement technique and quickly retreated, leaving this place. "Junior brother, you have advanced." Ling Han laughed heartily and stepped forward. "It's all thanks to senior brother." Long Yu said, if it wasn't for Ling Han blocking the pursuers for him, he would not have been able to step into the seventh stage of the martial Dao so smoothly. I didn't expect body refining martial skills to be so strong. It seems that when I go back, I have to think about it. Ling Han said with a smile and hammered Long Yu's shoulder. Different martial skills have different effects. Long Yu shook his head and said, "Actually, if Tan Jian still had the strength to fight, I would have been the one who lost. I used up all the Xianqi in my body because of the huge consumption of body refining martial skills. Although the demon's subduing Vajra barrier had a strong defense, its consumption was much higher than other martial skills. In terms of practicality, it was not comparable to a defensive martial skill like the defensive boulder. However, the demon's subduing Vajra barrier could protect the user's entire body, so it could better defend against martial skills like flying petals and flying leaves. All right, junior brother, when Feng Yao left just now, she told me to tell you something." Ling Han put away his joy and said with a serious expression, "The ice sects Hua Yun and Hua Qing have a big brother called Hua Buxi. Now that you have killed Hua Yun and Hua Qing, you must take revenge on Hua Buxi." "Hua Buxi? What's his cultivation level?" Long Yu was stunned for a moment. "I'm not sure, but Hua Buxi seems to be the number one core disciple of the Ice Sect," Ling Han said with a serious expression. The number one core disciple. Long Yu could not help but think of the mysterious young man from the Jintian clan, Feng Ho, who was also the number one core disciple of the Jintian clan. Thinking of this, Long Yu suddenly felt a great deal of pressure. If he were to face Feng Yin now, he would have some confidence. However, if he were to face Feng Ho, he knew that he had no chance of winning. Feng Ho's martial realm had long reached an unfathomable level, and he could even force the enforcement elder to retreat. "Feng Yao will definitely tell Hua Buxi that I killed Hua Yun and Hua Qing, so that she can kill me with a borrowed knife." Long Yu snorted coldly in his heart. "However, junior brother, you don't have to worry too much. No matter how arrogant Hua Buxi is, he won't come to our sect to kill people." Ling Han looked at Long Yu's expression and thought that he was frightened. He could not help but comfort him. "With your talent, As long as you continue to cultivate in the sect, it shouldn't be a problem for you to surpass Hua Buxi. Hearing this, Long Yu did not know whether to laugh or cry. This senior brother is really... However, there was one thing that Long Yu agreed with Ling Han's words. It was only a matter of time before he surpassed Hua Buxi. With the dragon seal of the 9 underworlds, that day would not be far away. That's right, I heard something interesting just now. It is said that a top-grade ancient ginseng has appeared in the ancient ginseng forest this year. Now, the imperial princess and her guards have entered the ancient ginseng forest to obtain that top-grade ancient ginseng. Ling Han said casually, as if he was talking about something trivial. To him, the appearance of a supreme-grade ancient ginseng had nothing to do with him. Chapter 44. A supreme-grade ginseng was 2 levels higher than a superior-grade ginseng. The dragon seal of the 9 underworlds can block the spread of spiritual qi. Maybe I can steal the supreme-grade ginseng without being discovered by the royal family. Long Yu's eyes flickered. The problem was that the royal family was extremely powerful. Just the golden-armored young man's cultivation was unfathomable. Only he would dare to steal from the royal family. However, the temptation of the supreme-grade ginseng was too great. If Long Yu could obtain it, he could definitely try to break through to the 8th stage of the martial path. Junior brother, what are you thinking about? Ling Han stood at the side and asked in confusion. Oh, nothing. Long Yu smiled and shook his head. Oh, right, senior brother, take this sword first. It's a pity that Tan Jian's armor is broken. Otherwise, it would be a good defensive weapon. As he spoke, he handed Hua Qing's sword to Ling Han. Junior brother, what are you doing? Ling Han's expression changed slightly. He refused to accept it. You obtained this weapon through battle. How can I take it? I think you're quite good with this sword. All right. Long Yu nodded. At this moment, he could finally confirm that Ling Han was definitely a friend worth befriending. According to Long Yu's personality, he was extremely cautious when making friends. Now that he had used the long sword battle weapon to test Ling Han, he instantly knew that Ling Han was not a person who coveted small advantages, and was also a person who valued loyalty. Long Yu wasn't the only one testing Ling Han. Wasn't Ling Han also testing Long Yu? When Tan Jian humbled himself and begged for mercy, although Ling Han didn't say anything, it was obvious that he wanted Long Yu to kill him. If Long Yu couldn't do it, Ling Han would obviously be disappointed. But now, the relationship between the two was clearly deeper. By the way, senior brother, where did the supreme grade ginseng appear? Long Yu pretended to ask casually. Look to the west. Ling Han didn't think much of it. He just thought that Long Yu was curious, so he pointed to the west and said, Do you see that mountain? Rumor has it that the highest grade ancient ginseng grows on that mountain peak. Above 1,000 zhang, Long Yu looked to the west and saw that 100 miles away, there was a steep mountain that towered into the clouds. It was as straight as a knife. Someone sensed dense spirit qi at the bottom of the mountain and went back to inform the royal family. Ling Han smiled and said, I'm afraid it would be very difficult for ordinary people to climb 100 zhang to pick that peak-grade ancient ginseng. 100 zhang was indeed very high. It seemed like he would have to put in quite a bit of effort if he wanted to obtain a peak-grade ancient ginseng. The good news was that the people from the royal family hadn't arrived yet. Long Yu's mind raced. Perhaps he could go and take a look first? Of course, he definitely wouldn't bring Ling Han with him. Stealing the supreme-grade ancient ginseng from the hands of the royal family would only lead to death once it was exposed. Whether it was for the sake of his own safety or for the sake of Ling Han, Long Yu could only go alone. But now, getting rid of Ling Han was a difficult problem. In order not to arouse his suspicion, Long Yu couldn't be too hasty. He could only take one step at a time. Senior brother, let's look around and see if there are any other ancient ginseng. It seems that you haven't found anything in the ancient ginseng forest. Long Yu said, What are you talking about? I found quite a lot. Lu Mingxuan's Black Lock combat weapon is very useful. Ling Han laughed. But it doesn't seem right if we can't find any ancient ginseng in the ancient ginseng forest. Senior brother, let's go this way, Long Yu said as he picked a direction and walked forward. Ling Han quickly followed Long Yu through the ancient ginseng forest. The direction that Long Yu picked happened to be the west of the supreme grade ancient ginseng. Halfway through, the two of them suddenly smelled blood and instantly became alert. It's the body of a junior brother. An outer disciple of the Jintian clan in a blue robe had been cut open and hung on a tree in front of them. The two of them were shocked by the scene. How could someone be so cruel? He just died not long ago. With a casual glance, Long Yu was able to see through the clues. His sharp eyes swept the surroundings, and very quickly, he found some clues. Senior brother, take care of this junior brother's body. I'll go after the murderer. After saying that, Long Yu did not care about what Ling Han thought and suddenly sped up in a direction. Seeing this, Ling Han inwardly thought that junior brother Long Yu's actions were decisive. He also wanted to go and kill the murderer with his own hands, but it didn't seem too good to just leave his junior brother's corpse exposed in the wilderness like this. Long Yu ran for a few miles and secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he knew that Ling Han did not chase after him. But then his attention was completely focused on the guy in front of him. That disciple of the Thousand Thread sect killed a disciple of the Jintian clan and stole a medium-grade ancient ginseng. He was absorbing the spiritual energy from the side, but I found him. A cold light flashed in Long Yu's eyes. Coincidentally, a supreme-grade ancient ginseng appeared. I can make use of this guy. However, the Thousand Thread sect's disciple's speed was in no way inferior to Long Yu's. Even when Long Yu used Wind, Flash, Step, and Blizzard Boots, he could only sense the movement of the other party in the forest, but he couldn't see the other party's figure. The Blizzard Boots, as a combat weapon, definitely has more than just this speed. Long Yu's eyes flashed. According to Elder Bai, martial arts and combat weapons can be combined, and the effect of a combat weapon will be stronger. Thinking of this, he once again focused all his attention on the Blizzard Boots. As he ran, he felt the flow of chi on the Blizzard Boots. This was not the first time that Long Yu had done this. Every time, he would feel that the distance between him and the Blizzard Boots was shortened, but he could not really combine with them. At this moment, facing an enemy that he could not catch up with, Long Yu's potential was suddenly stimulated. Several mysterious black lines quietly flowed on the 9 Underworld's dragon seal, and the next moment, they wrapped around the Blizzard Boots, adding a mysterious color to the snow-white coldness of the Blizzard Boots. Boom, boom, boom. The Blizzard Boots seemed to have a heartbeat, and it coincided with Long Yu's heartbeat. That's the feeling of combining. Long Yu suddenly opened his eyes. He felt the power from the Blizzard Boots become stronger, and his speed suddenly increased. As the Blizzard Boots trembled, Long Yu's entire body was like a stream of light in the forest. In the blink of an eye, the Thousand Thread sect disciple who was running away in front of him finally fell into Long Yu's line of sight. It was a skinny man in a green robe. His cheekbones were prominent, and his eyes were deep. His cultivation was at the 7th stage of the martial path. Among the Thousand Thread sect disciples who came to ancient ginseng forest, only a few are at the 7th stage of the martial path. This guy in front of me should be the last 7th stage martial path disciple of the Thousand Thread sect. Long Yu thought to himself as he continued to activate the Blizzard Boots with chi. In the next moment, a burst of ice and snow swept out from the Blizzard Boots and surged toward the Thousand Thread sect disciple. Upon seeing this, that person secretly cursed his bad luck. He wanted to control his shadow to obstruct Long Yu's pursuit. However, at this moment, the Blizzard War Boots shot out a burst of cold ice and snow, enveloping his entire body. His speed was instantly reduced by the ice and snow. Resonance is the first level of combining with a combat weapon. I didn't expect that just by resonating with the Blizzard Boots, my speed would almost double, and I can even release ice and snow to obstruct the enemy. Long Yu was pleasantly surprised. In the next moment, his body turned into a light breeze, and in the blink of an eye, he had finally caught up to his opponent. Heaven's suppressing charm. Suppress for me. When Long Yu saw that his opponent still had the intention to resist, he immediately released the heaven suppressing charm and suppressed his opponent. Even the flow of qi in his body slowed down by 70 to 80%. The current Long Yu could easily deal with an opponent at the 7th stage of the martial path. When the heaven suppressing charm descended, his opponent had no ability to resist at all. This was the feeling of control. It was hard to imagine what it would be like if he could further comprehend the force of heaven and earth, or even domain. When Long Yu raised his hand and released the heaven-suppressing charm, the thousand-thread sect disciple almost lost the ability to resist. His bony face was full of shock. They were both in the 7th stage of the martial path, but how could Long Yu be so powerful? The disciple couldn't figure it out. Relax, I won't kill you. I just want to make a deal with you. Long Yu smiled faintly. A deal. The disciple's hoarse voice sounded, carrying some doubt. I want you to help me retrieve something, and I can consider sparing your life. How about it? It's a fair deal, right? Long Yu said. Retrieve what? The disciple asked subconsciously. A top-grade ancient ginseng. Long Yu said. The disciple's expression suddenly changed. You want me to rob the royal family? Impossible. Why, you don't want to? Long Yu said faintly. Then I'll have to kill you first. Then find someone else. The disciple's expression darkened. He felt the pressure on his body and knew that he was definitely no match for Long Yu. After thinking for a moment, he could only nod. I can give it a try, he said. Very well, then let's go. Long Yu grabbed the disciple and ran toward the peak dozens of miles to the west. After using Wind Flash Step, he was as fast as the wind. Unfortunately, the resonance between him and the blizzard boots had already stopped. The resonance just now was only temporary with the help of the 9 Underworld's Dragon Seal. It seems that there is still a long way to go before it can truly resonate with the blizzard boots, Long Yu thought to himself. While heading toward the destination, he felt the flow of qi in the blizzard boots, strengthening the coordination between him and the blizzard boots, striving to truly integrate with them as soon as possible. Speed was too important for a martial cultivator. However, integrating with a combat weapon was not something that could be done overnight. Even for Long Yu, it could only be done step by step. Unknowingly, the distance of dozens of miles was quickly crossed. That towering mountain peak finally appeared not too far away from Long Yu. Even from a few miles away, he could feel the rich qi coming from the peak, making him unable to help but be intoxicated. A top-grade ancient ginseng is indeed extraordinary. Long Yu praised in his heart. The closer he got to his destination, the calmer his thoughts became. It was not an easy task to snatch something from the hands of the royal family. A few miles away, Long Yu hid in the bushes, holding his long sword horizontally in front of the thousand-thread sect disciple's neck, firmly restraining him. Chapter 45. At the foot of the steep mountain, 2 golden-armored martial cultivators sat on the ground, obviously guarding the supreme-grade ancient ginseng. As for the other members of the royal family, whether it was the royal princess or the golden-armored youth who looked similar to Long Yu, none of them were present. They were probably on their way. The supreme-grade ancient ginseng contains a strong amount of spiritual qi. Once it is picked, the spiritual qi will begin to dissipate. Therefore, it is best to consume it when it is just picked. Long Yu thought to himself. He roughly guessed that the royal family wanted to wait for the others to arrive before consuming the supreme-grade ancient ginseng. This gave Long Yu an excellent opportunity to make his move. Can you sense the position of the supreme-grade ancient ginseng? Long Yu asked sternly with his head lowered. Probably. The thousand-thread sect disciple reluctantly nodded, but that place is too high. Even if I control the shadow, I can't pick the supreme-grade ancient ginseng. Then what do you want? Long Yu asked with narrowed eyes. Let me absorb the spiritual qi of the mid-grade ancient ginseng. If I can step into the 8th layer of the martial path, I should be able to pick the supreme-grade ancient ginseng. The thousand-thread sect disciple said in a low voice. His withered eyes flashed with shrewdness. Is that so? Long Yu coldly snorted. Since you're so useless, then die. As soon as he finished speaking, Long Yu exerted force with the sword in his hand. Immediately, a bloody mark appeared on the Thousand Thread Sect disciple's skinny neck. This caused the Thousand Thread Sect disciple to jump in fright. He hurriedly said, "Wait, I can try first. Don't play any tricks. If there are any abnormalities, I will kill you first." Long Yu coldly said. He no longer exerted force in his hand. However, the sword was still placed in front of the guy's neck. The Thousand Thread Sect disciple finally realized that Long Yu was not an easy opponent to fool. Now, he could only try and see if he could obtain the supreme grade ancient ginseng. However, I have to remind you that the royal family members are extraordinary. Even if you obtain the supreme grade ancient ginseng, you won't have the chance to absorb its spiritual qi. The Thousand Thread Sect disciple reminded. You don't need to worry about that. What are you waiting for? Long Yu said coldly. That person didn't dare to be careless. He hurriedly controlled his shadow and followed the shadows of the ancient forest towards the steep mountain wall. With a long sword in front of his neck, he did not dare to act recklessly. He carefully observed the scene in front of him and found that it was evening. Under the light of the setting sun, the steep mountain wall was completely in shadow. This brought great convenience to the movement of his shadow. Hiding in the shadow of the setting sun, he controlled the shadow to move forward quickly. Soon, he climbed up the steep mountain wall that was 500 feet high. No, it's too far. I can't reach it. The Thousand Thread Sect disciple said in a low voice. At this moment, his control over his shadow had already weakened to a certain extent. If it went any higher, he would no longer be able to control his own shadow. The disciples of the Thousand Thread Sect could control shadows, but of course, there was a limit to the distance. Moreover, the further the distance, the weaker the control, and the slower the movement of the shadow. Let's approach slowly. Don't play any tricks, unless you want to die. Long Yu said coldly. He held the Thousand Thread Sect disciple hostage and slowly moved towards the bottom of the steep mountain wall. As they moved slowly, the shadow on the mountain wall got closer and closer to the peak-grade ancient ginseng. Due to the shadow of the mountain wall under the setting sun, the two golden-armored martial cultivators that were guarding it did not notice the situation on the mountain wall at all. Long Yu led the Thousand Thread Sect disciple and circled around the two golden-armored martial cultivators. Finally, they approached the mountain wall and arrived at a forest at the bottom of the steep mountain wall. I reached it. The Thousand Thread Sect disciple was slightly excited. Did you pick it? Yes. Long Yu nodded. You have to withdraw your concept first. Otherwise, my shadow won't be able to display such great power. The Thousand Thread Sect disciple said again. You should know that I can release this heaven-suppressing concept at any time. Therefore, it's best if you don't take any chances. Long Yu said coldly. Then, he withdrew the heaven-suppressing charm. The Thousand Thread Sect disciple let out a sigh of relief. Immediately, he circulated the profound qi in his body. Immediately, the sound of rocks falling came from the steep mountain wall. Who? Someone's there. The two golden-armored martial cultivators immediately noticed the abnormality on the steep mountain wall. They immediately raised their heads and looked at the steep mountain wall. They looked up and saw a black shadow holding a top-grade ancient ginseng in its hand. The ginseng exuded an extremely dense spiritual energy as it fled along the mountain wall into the distance. People from the Thousand Thread Sect, you're courting death. One of the golden-armored martial cultivators coldly snorted when he saw the situation. He moved his feet, and his entire body flashed to the steep mountain wall. Step by step, he moved up the mountain wall. With a loud bang, golden profound qi blasted out. A wave of trembling fluctuations blasted a large hole in the mountain wall. Gravel exploded and tumbled down. However, the speed of the Thousand Thread Sect shadow was extremely fast. Even the golden-armored martial cultivators who had reached the 9th level of the martial Tao couldn't catch up. In just a moment, the shadow quickly ran along the steep mountain wall with the top-grade ancient ginseng. In the blink of an eye, it hid in the dense forest at the bottom of the mountain wall. The top-grade ancient ginseng's spiritual energy is so dense. You want to steal it from under our noses? You're simply delusional. One of the golden-armored martial cultivators sneered and waved his hand. Chase, no matter who it is, anyone who dares to touch our imperial family's things will die without a doubt. The other golden-armored martial cultivator said indifferently. He didn't seem to make any movements, but his entire golden-armored figure had already appeared 10 feet away. His speed was as fast as lightning. The two golden-armored martial cultivators were now quite unhappy. The imperial princess had asked them to go ahead and look at the top-grade ancient ginseng. They didn't expect it to be taken away. At that time, even if they took it back, the ancient ginseng's spiritual energy would have been lost, and they would definitely be punished. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for the two of them to let go of the person who had taken away the top-grade ancient ginseng, even if the other party was the daughter of the thousand-thread sect master. However, very quickly, the two of them turned ashen, because halfway through their pursuit, the spiritual energy emitted by the top-grade ancient ginseng suddenly disappeared. It wasn't gradually weakening or fading, but suddenly the rich spiritual energy was completely gone. They couldn't even feel a trace of it. Could have been eaten by someone? The two of them couldn't help but think, but even if it had been eaten by someone, the rich spiritual energy shouldn't have disappeared so quickly. The two golden-armored figures quickly passed through the thicket, advancing towards the place where the spiritual energy of the top-grade ancient ginseng had disappeared. Not long after, a bony corpse of the thousand-thread sect's disciple appeared in front of them. The top-grade ancient ginseng had long since disappeared. What exactly happened? The two of them looked at each other, their expressions extremely solemn. The thousand-thread sect's disciple who had stolen the top-grade ancient ginseng had died here, but the top-grade ancient ginseng had disappeared. This scene made the two of them feel as if they had fallen into an abyss. Quickly, search the surroundings. The two of them weren't willing to lose the top-grade ancient ginseng just like that, so they immediately split up and searched. However, since they couldn't feel the aura of the top-grade ancient ginseng, how could they possibly find it? After the two of them left, in a thicket not far from the thousand-thread sect's disciple's corpse, a figure flashed quickly and instantly disappeared into the boundless thicket. This figure was Long Yu. Just now, when he had obtained the top-grade ancient ginseng, the thousand-thread sect's disciple had taken the opportunity to display a martial technique, wanting to use his shadow to subdue Long Yu. However, he had been directly suppressed by Long Yu's heaven-suppressing charm, and his heart had been shattered with a single punch. Immediately after, Long Yu had used the 9 Underworld's Dragon Seal to completely conceal the spiritual energy of the top-grade ancient ginseng. At that time, the two golden-armored martial cultivators were already not far away. If Long Yu had run away, he would have been detected by them, so he had hidden in a nearby thicket. The two golden-armored martial cultivators hadn't thought of this, so they had actually searched elsewhere. Long Yu had seized the opportunity to slip away. Not long after, the two golden-armored martial cultivators returned from different directions with gloomy expressions. "Did you find anything?" one of them asked. "No." The other person shook his head. To be able to instantly make the top-grade ancient ginseng's spiritual energy disappear, I've thought about it for a long time. There's only one possibility, and that is that it has been stored in a unique spatial treasure. A unique spatial treasure. The man's expression became very ugly. Those who possess unique spatial treasures are considered important even in the Imperial City. How could they appear here? The two of them had no other choice but to wait where they were. Not long after, the Imperial Princess and the golden-armored young man arrived together. Hearing their words, the golden-armored young man's expression changed. A unique spatial treasure. When it came to the level of a unique spatial treasure, it was definitely not a simple matter. However, those who possessed unique spatial treasures were all wealthy and respectable in the imperial city. A mere top-grade ancient ginseng wasn't enough for them to risk offending the imperial family to rob it. Seal all exits. The disciples of the Jintian clan, the Ice sect, and the Thousand Thread sect, all of them must be strictly interrogated before they leave. If there are any suspicious people, arrest them immediately. The golden-armored young man directly gave the order with a gloomy expression. The top-grade ancient ginseng belonged to the imperial family. Now that it had been robbed, no matter who it was, they must pay the price. On the other side, after Long Yu obtained the high-grade ancient ginseng, he immediately found a secluded place and prepared to absorb the spiritual qi within the best-grade ancient ginseng. Otherwise, the longer it took, the more spiritual qi would be lost. However, he didn't intend to completely absorb it. Instead, he planned to temporarily store most of the spiritual energy in the 9 Abyss Dragon Seal. If I absorb all the spiritual energy within the top-grade ancient ginseng, I can try to break through to the 8th stage of the martial path. However, such a rapid increase in cultivation would easily arouse suspicion. It's better to be safe. After making up his mind, Long Yu began to absorb the top-grade ancient ginseng. The spiritual energy contained within the top-grade ancient ginseng was as vast as the sea. Compared to the high-grade ancient ginseng he had absorbed not long ago, it was more than 10 times denser. Of course, if he wanted to break through from the 7th stage of the martial path to the 8th stage, he needed to absorb more than 10 times the spiritual energy. If it weren't for a coincidence, Long Yu would still be far from the 8th stage of the martial path. Top-grade ancient ginseng absorb. Long Yu bit the top-grade ancient ginseng and began to absorb the spiritual energy within it. At the same time, he used the 9 Abyss Dragon Seal to store most of the spiritual energy. Waves of dense spiritual energy were absorbed into Long Yu's body. After absorbing about 10% of the spiritual energy, the profound energy in his meridians surged, raising his body's basic strength to 72,000 Jin, which was the limit of the 7th stage of the martial Tao. That's enough. Long Yu stopped absorbing, opened his eyes, and stood up. At this moment, his strength was much stronger than before. Moreover, the 9 Abyss Dragon Seal also stored 90% of the top-grade ancient ginseng's spiritual energy. Chapter 46. After Long Yu was done with the supreme-grade ancient ginseng, he jumped off the ancient tree, found a deep pool, and threw the battle weapon in his hand into it. After that, he sprinted in the direction where Ling Han had been previously. That combat weapon left a bloody mark on the Thousand Thread sect's disciple's neck. Keeping it will only make people suspicious. I'd better throw it away. Long Yu didn't feel it was a pity to throw away a combat weapon. Compared to being discovered by the imperial family and losing his life, a combat weapon was really not that important. Not to mention a low-rank combat weapon. Even if it was a high-rank combat weapon, Long Yu would throw it away without hesitation. Soon, Long Yu returned to where Ling Han was. At this moment, Ling Han had just buried the corpse of the heaven-suppressing sect disciple who had died a horrible death. After waiting for a while, he saw Long Yu running back. "Junior brother, how was it?" Ling Han quickly stood up and asked. "I couldn't catch up, and I lost the combat weapon instead," Long Yu said in a deep voice. Of course, he wouldn't tell Ling Han about the high-rank ginseng. "Did you see who it was?" Ling Han frowned. "Could it be Yu Qianing? In the ancient ginseng forest, it seems like only Yu Qianing is your opponent. But if it was her, she wouldn't have run away even if she was facing us. It was someone from the Thousand Thread sect. They were very fast, but I don't know who they are." Long Yu shook his head and said with regret. Since he said so, Ling Han couldn't ask any more questions. So he said, "Junior brother, now that you've obtained the 3rd-grade ginseng, why don't you leave the ancient ginseng forest first to ensure your own safety? Senior brother, You were the one who helped me stop the pursuers, so I had the time to absorb the high-rank ginseng. Long Yu shook his head and smiled. Now, how can I leave first? I'll at least help you find mid-grade ginseng. As for high-grade ginseng, it's hard to say. After all, there aren't many of them in the ancient ginseng forest. You might not be able to find any. Good brother, I didn't misjudge you. Ling Han laughed. Then, the two of them discussed their itinerary and found a big tree each. They jumped to the top of the tree and rested. They planned to set out to look for the ancient ginseng the next morning. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. The two of them searched along the way and quickly found a mid-grade ancient ginseng. However, until the last day, they did not see any trace of a high-grade ancient ginseng. Forget it. After absorbing the low-grade and mid-grade ginseng, I'm not far from breaking through to the 8th stage of the martial path. As for high-grade ginseng, I don't have any extravagant requests. On the way to the entrance of the ancient ginseng forest, Ling Han said with a smile. He felt that once he returned to the Jintian clan, he could attempt to break through to the 8th stage of the martial path. Once he succeeded, he would be able to challenge a core disciple of the sect. Once he succeeded the challenge and became a core disciple, he would be able to head to the mountain behind the Jintian clan's martial arts pavilion to comprehend supreme martial arts techniques. For example, the martial art that Feng Yun used to pierce through Long Yu's right leg, the sky wave traversal, was a supreme martial art technique with terrifying power. Since they were both in the 8th stage of the martial path, Feng Yun could easily break through Tanjian's defense with the sky wave traversal. A supreme martial art was much stronger than a high-grade martial art. Junior brother, you've gained a lot this time. Not to mention that you can defeat an expert in the 8th stage of the martial path with your cultivation at the 7th stage of the martial path. It looks like it's only a matter of time before you become a core disciple. Ling Han said with a smile. Perhaps. Long Yu nodded casually. In his heart, he was thinking that it was only natural for him to challenge a core disciple. Once he finished absorbing the spiritual energy stored in the 9 Nether Dragon Seal and reached the 8th stage of the martial path, he would definitely challenge Feng Yun. When he first entered the Jintian clan, he defeated Feng Yang and Feng Kong consecutively. However, Feng Yun's attack pierced through his right leg and heavily injured him. Furthermore, Feng Yun also tried to take away Feng Chang's position as the head of the Feng clan. This made it even more impossible for Long Yu to let him go. That's right, senior brother. Seeing that they were about to reach the exit of the ancient ginseng forest, Long Yu seemed to have suddenly thought of something and whispered, "If the royal family interrogates us later, just say that we grew up together in the Ling clan's villa. How about it?" Ling Han came from a villa near the Jintian clan. He was the young master of the Ling clan's villa. Hearing Long Yu's words, Ling Han was a little surprised. What's wrong, junior brother? Could it be that you have some sort of relationship with the royal family? I heard that the royal guards are searching for someone, but it shouldn't have anything to do with you. Senior brother, to be honest, I'm not too sure about my background. However, I have a feeling that it has something to do with that golden-armored youth. If he knows about my background, I'm afraid that he'll make things difficult for me. Long Yu explained. I see. Don't worry. When the time comes, I'll say that you're my playmate who grew up with me in the Ling clan's villa. Ling Han laughed heartily. Only then did Long Yu feel relieved. Following that, he and Ling Han arrived at the exit of the ancient ginseng forest. At the side of the city gate leading to the ancient ginseng forest, there were 4 golden-armored martial cultivators on duty. The golden-armored youth who looked somewhat similar to Long Yu stood behind the 4 golden-armored martial cultivators and personally guarded them. He would not let any of them go easily. Seeing Ling Han and Long Yu walking over, the eyes of the golden-armored youth and the 4 golden-armored martial cultivators lit up at the same time. The two of you, stop right there. The golden-armored youth shouted coldly and stopped the two of them. This fellow's martial cultivation was unfathomable. Of course, Long Yu and Ling Han could not disobey and could only stop in their tracks. Jintian clan, Ling Han, Long Yu. The golden-armored youth glanced at the two of them. Judging from your cultivation, It seems that you've improved a lot since you entered, especially you, Long Yu." As he spoke, his sharp eyes under the golden armor looked at Long Yu. "From the 6th level of the martial path to the 7th level of the martial path. Tell me how many ancient ginsengs you've collected." "I've obtained inferior grade, middle grade, and superior grade ancient ginsengs." Long Yu was calm and composed. He looked straight into the eyes of the golden-armored youth and said calmly, "Humph." The golden-armored young man's eyes were filled with disdain. He took a step forward and stopped in front of Long Yu. He squinted at him and said, "Your appearance, your name, it reminds me of a piece of trash that shouldn't exist. Before this, we should have never met, right?" Long Yu asked with narrowed eyes. "Now, I'm the one asking you." The golden-armored youth snorted coldly. "You don't have the right to ask questions. When you shouldn't speak, just shut up." "Lord, don't be angry." At this moment, Ling Han finally spoke. He smiled and said, "He's my playmate since I was young in the Ling family villa. He definitely isn't the person you're thinking of, Lord." "I think so too. That piece of trash shouldn't be able to step into the martial path," the golden-armored youth said proudly and then waved his hand. "Search." As soon as these two words came out, Long Yu immediately knew that the other party was indeed guarding here to search for supreme-grade ancient ginsengs. Unfortunately, no matter how these guys searched, they wouldn't be able to find the whereabouts of the supreme-grade ancient ginsengs. Soon, Ling Han and Long Yu were searched. No suspicious items were found, and they were released from the ancient ginseng forest. Ling Han was relaxed, but Long Yu was still thinking about the golden-armored youth's words. A piece of trash that shouldn't exist. That piece of trash shouldn't be able to step into the martial path. Putting these two sentences together, Long Yu was almost certain that the person the golden-armored youth was talking about was him. There was definitely a connection between him and the golden-armored young man. It was even possible that they were related by blood. Of course, the golden-armored youth was just a guard of the princess and not a member of the imperial family. So he didn't know which family he was from. Could it be the Long family? Long Yu pondered as he followed Ling Han. Not long after, he saw Elder Yu in a black robe, standing not far from the city gate waiting for them. "Elder Yu." The two of them walked over and soon arrived at Elder Yu's side. "You guys came out. Good harvest?" Elder Yu glanced at the two of them and smiled. Obviously, he could see that the two of them had improved, especially Long Yu, who had directly advanced a level. "Yes, not bad. Elder Yu, after we return, I will go into seclusion to break through to the 8th stage of the martial path. If I succeed, I will prepare to challenge the core disciples." Ling Han said directly. In front of Elder Yu, there was no need for him to hide anything. "Not bad, not bad." Elder Yu nodded and did not say anything else. He continued to pay attention to the exit of the ancient ginseng forest, but his expression was not very good. This time, a total of 16 people from the Jintian clan came, but until now, only Long Yu and Ling Han had come out of the ancient ginseng forest. The casualties this year seemed to be much more serious than in previous years. Not only the Jintian clan, but even the other two sects were in a similar situation. So far, only Feng Yao and 2 other disciples of the 6th stage of the martial path had come out from the Ice sect. As for the Thousand Thread sect, only 1 disciple of the 6th stage of the martial path had come out. This time, the strongest 4 people had not been seen. At this moment, a panicked cry for help suddenly came from the entrance of the ancient ginseng forest. "Help! Save me!" A crisp female voice, accompanied by a flurry of panicked footsteps, entered the ears of the people waiting outside the ancient ginseng forest. Everyone, including Long Yu, looked towards the ancient ginseng forest only to see a green-clothed girl staggering out, and behind her, there were actually countless long needle shadows chasing after her. This young girl in green was Feng Qianqian of the Jintian clan. "Stop!" The golden-armored youth guarding the exit of the ancient ginseng forest immediately shouted, but it was to no avail. The countless needles chased after Feng Qianqian at an extremely fast speed. In the next moment, Feng Qianqian's body was pierced through, and blood immediately gushed out. Her eyes were still filled with the desire to live, but the needles that pierced through her body were like snakes and scorpions, robbing her of her life force in an instant. With a bang, Feng Qianqian's body fell to the ground, creating a cloud of dust. After she fell, the beautiful figure of a woman in light yellow clothes slowly walked out of the thicket, holding a long needle that shone with a bloodthirsty light. It's Princess Qian Si Yu Qianing. Long Yu and the others narrowed their eyes. They didn't think that Yu Qianing would dare to kill someone at the exit of the ancient ginseng forest. She really didn't put the royal family in her eyes. Yu Qianing's snow-white face was expressionless, as if the person who just killed someone wasn't her. Step by step, she walked towards the exit of the ancient ginseng forest. Sir, it doesn't seem appropriate to kill someone at the exit of the ancient ginseng forest, right? The golden-armored youth took a step forward and frowned as he said to Yu Qianing. As the imperial guard of the royal family's princess, the golden-armored youth had always been arrogant. When facing the disciples of the three sects, he acted as if he was a high and mighty ruler. However, facing Yu Qianing now, even if her cultivation was lower than his, he still had some misgivings. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.